All Reason No Logic, hosting King of the Hill lobbies, most Sundays. Join our Discord to be part of the action. See you in game, Commanders. Beyond All Reason fans, welcome to King of the Hill by All Reason No Logic. Experience 2 or more teams facing off in epic scale warfare, where the Horde gang up on the Kings of the Hill. Kings start off with an economic bonus. They do their best to defend an onslaught after a no-rush timer expires. Test out your micro and defend against multiple players in variations of this game mode. Or be part of the masses. Team up with your allies to topple the throne in a glorious victory. All Reason No Logic, hosting King of the Hill lobbies, most Sundays. Join our Discord to be part of the action. See you in game, Commanders. Beyond All Reason fans, welcome to King of the Hill by All Reason No Logic. Experience 2 or more teams facing off in epic scale warfare, where the Horde gang up on the Kings of the Hill. Kings start off with an economic bonus. They do their best to defend an onslaught after a no-rush timer expires. Test out your micro and defend against multiple players in variations of this game mode. Or be part of the masses. Team up with your allies to topple the throne in a glorious victory. All Reason No Logic, hosting King of the Hill lobbies, most Sundays. Join our Discord to be part of the action.
Hey everyone. I think we finally got the YouTube working again. They added in an extra couple steps for absolutely no reason, no benefit from what I can tell. Just meter ready up.
Might just drop these back to 50s, looking at who's in.
Yeah, okay, do that. Good call. Good shout. There's a lower ranked. Actually, should we try it 45?
45 will be a struggle.
Yeah, 45 will be a massive struggle with the update.
There's a little difference.
Is Stephen a new king? I can't remember.
There we go. On our way. Open up the stream so I can have them going in the background.
Yeah. Maybe YouTube is not live.
Looks
Yes,
like it is.
yes it is.
Just takes a little bit to do the thing.
Did we do it so we don't have to pick order? Correct. It is the case.
Nice.
Oh, I might have forgot to turn on. No, we've got all that in our codes, don't we? Yeah, we should be good. A interesting
Oh, classics here. Right now.
distribution of
Oh, no.
players they've got there.
Wonder which lane's going to have 3. Hopefully they actually spawn in the middle of a lane rather than in between them.
I can tell you now, they're spawning between 2
Oh,
lanes.
You probably got the opportunity to tell them to move.
Mm.
Who is it? I'll just announce it. If you're the 11th peasant, jump in between one of the triangles so that you know which triangle you're attacking. There you go, link. So move either 1 spot left or 1 spot right of where you are. And that is your triangle.
I'm just remembering that we can't actually see what's going on.
All solved.
Yeah, this.
Now, have we got the one with the 15 minutes or the 10-minute lava recede? You know, the one that holds the very bottom for 15?
This isn't the 15 one, I don't think.
Okay. Oh well.
Hello and welcome everyone to AllReasonNoLogic's King of the Hill on Claymore. Looks like we have Twig in the hot seat today, and we're going to see whether or not he can prove whether he is the defining reason for wins, or if it was in fact me, like we alluded to in the upcoming video tonight. Joining him in the middle, we do have quite the strong team with Cookies Duffy, Ollie, and Cookado, all surrounding Twig. But we also have a new contender to the list with Stefan with APH. Hopefully, they'll make a good showing, though without the foreknowledge of how to do the builds. It might be a slight bit rough, especially considering that he's the player with 3 players in his lane. You can't make up this bad luck.
We'll have to see how it all plays out.
And guys, you're going to get my perspective because unfortunately there's been an update to the stream key on the official Beyond All Reason. So perspective is locked onto me until the next game, in which I will spectate.
Oh, that's okay. If you're seeing this on YouTube, then it is recording from my perspective.
On that, I did miss the last 1 or 2 of these. Last time I played, I won this, I'm pretty sure.
So far, with myself at the helm, it's a 100% win rate for Claymore. Let's see whether or not Twig can do this one. For those of you listening, Twig is the orange player in the top left, so please do feel free to pile onto him. Looking around the map at we're seeing very standard starts. One thing you'll notice, Cookies Duffy going with all of his wind nice and grouped up. If there are any rule breaks, this could be quite dangerous, but considering that he's up against quite an experienced lobby, this is actually not a bad thing to do, especially if you're planning to reclaim them, because the reality is that if someone's in your base in this game mode, it's probably going to be game over still. If they just get a random shot in, it could cause some real damage. That's why we like these lines of 2. We do have a short on why they don't chain react if you want to check that one out. Looking around the map, we see Twig's base going on right here. Third build turret, fourth one coming down. Right now funneling a lot of energy into those converters, but not producing enough to make use of them just yet. The build priority being on that construction turret. Eats a lot of energy, 3,200 over a short period of time. But now it is building back up, so some of these converters will go back into being of use. Standard builds in this area, usually between about 25 and 40 wind, though we do see some nice variations. As you can see, Kokado already going into that T2 lab, having eaten the T1 lab, only 23 wind down, is a little late on the conversion, but it doesn't look like it matters because it is going to come up right as he bottoms out on metal, which is what you want to see. Com going down for that reclaim, only 43 left on it, which means that as much metal as possible is going into the advanced bot lab. The plus 50 that we have them players on is going to slow them down a little bit compared to the previous weeks, where they had that little bit more metal to go on. So just a slight bit of a delay, and a delay in scaling is always a thing. Twig, do you mind just throwing a pause in real quick?
We got people going outside of their zones, do we?
Yes, we do.
Yeah. Looks like that should be all good once we unpause.
Yep.
Alright, you want me to unpause? I'll just post the rules again so everyone can read them.
Yeah.
No, all good. We should be good to go, and that one will be dealt with nicely.
Battle resumed.
There we go, that player has pulled back. And hopefully we'll see those ones popping in just a moment. There we go. That is gone, and the other one will be shortly as well. So, looking around the map at a couple of the experienced players, let's see if we can't find ourselves a potato around the outside. Going into that mass win strategy, one of the things that we don't talk as much about is the peasant builds. We've been focusing quite a lot on the kings recently, so let's talk a little bit about this. You need to balance your scaling with your getting of T2 and trying to make sure that you put as much money as you possibly can into money generation over the course of the start of the game. If you go too wind heavy and are too late on the T2 mexes, you're missing out on a lot of T2 mechs. If you go too slow into if you go into it too early, then you'll run out of metal and you won't get them, and you won't be benefiting from all of the potential energy conversion. So you got to balance that one out as nicely as you possibly can. Probably not quite needing. Oh no, the wait command is actually to feed Link Bobber, who is grabbing that T2. So all three players there working together to get that. Oh no, maybe not. Does look like Oppie is going for their T2 on their own. One thing we do recommend is sharing the T2, because 3,000 metal is way too much to spend twice early on in the game. And as you can see from elsewhere in the map, just that one T2 going up here, you tap the mexes, and then you move them down. You can technically get away with just one construction bot, though we do often see it more than that. And this is reasonably universal around the map.
Yeah, ideally you build that T2 lab, build say a couple of T2 constructors so that you can have one each, tap the maxes as it's leaving the base, put a constructor on them so that they can finish, and then walk it on to your other player that you're handing it off to.
And if you do the build right, you can even get yourself all the way up to a fusion before, a fusion with enough to deal with anything the kings can throw at you at 10 minutes, but you do lose that window. You do lose that window of time that would otherwise be available. 10 minutes is really when you want to attack. If you wait any longer than that, you won't have the power to overcome what is usually T2 defenses with any ease. And if you just try and scale, you probably won't outscale the kings, because plus 50% is one of those things that scales exponentially. It needs to be that high to allow for the kings to stay remotely competitive at the beginning of the game. But if they are left to scale, it goes in a pretty crazy way. So if you look at a Aphis, with a plus 50% bonus. Instead of needing 4 converters, it needs 6, and instead of producing 10 metal off of each one of them, it produces 15, which means that instead of grabbing a nice 40 metal, a plus 50% bonus is 90 metal out of an APHIS. So you can see how quickly that'll get out of hand, because kings need to build 2 1/4 for every one. Peasants need to build 2 1/4 for every one the kings do. So it's a lot of eco to get up online nice and quick.
Seeing some different strategies with the bases being built. If you look, no, I'm quickly going to be looking anyway. Down on the bottom right, that's a lot of defenses being built. And then we've got some walls which I don't remember seeing recently. However,
one of the problems with building the walls is this is a very large investment into the very front of the base. So we're seeing 28 walls at 8 apiece, which is not a huge amount. It's only about 200. It's only about 200 metals worth going into it. But then it is the Dragon's Claws behind it that are going to be a massive money sink. Such a massive money sink to the point that the T2 lab hasn't even been built, and it has decayed a fair bit as well, which means that that's just a lot of metal down the drain. But continuing to build all of these, if they do all come up, it's going to be at a cost of, let's see, how much is a Dragon's Claw? At 340 each, you're looking at almost 2,000. You're looking at over 2,000 metal at that front line position. Actually, it's over 3,000 metal at that front line position, and the thing about that is the king can just go around it in either direction. There are 3 entrances to the base. So you do have to be quite careful with that, and it's why we promote the use of unit defenses.
Your static defense needs to be just enough to probably deter them and catch the couple of small units that are running by, but it doesn't need to necessarily hold the army at bay.
Now, with 1 minute to go, let's have a quick assessment around the map. Looks like we're seeing some T1 tanks that are going to be assisting more T1 tanks from our lovely players over here. Then next one along, we're seeing a lot of, actually this is tank meta the game. This is T1 tank meta the game.
Going to be a rather interesting fight.
Yes. The thing is, the kings can do a lot in a small amount of time, but if you go on that 10-minute mark exactly, they are usually underprepared in at least one way. And that's what we're about to see just here. So with that 10-minute expiring, units on the map, we have 161, and of that, less than 20 of them are king's units. Now, the most interesting engagement is actually going to be Twigs, but thankfully, because of his radar, he has seen it, and the attacks are not coordinated. So it does look like Twig has what he needs to push this one back. Blitzers are a very strong unit, but they are not strong. Oh, actually, they are pushing through.
That's enough to get in.
Very nice. That's going to be a lot of damage. We'll jump back to that one in a second, because the other one to look at is the top right, is the top middle, where we're seeing a lot of the incisors coming in, and they take a lot of damage not getting through the beamers here, but they are just a front line for all of the stouts. And we do have Janus coming in, we do have the...
and that artillery raining over the top as well.
Sometimes you need to sit back and shell, other times you just need to get everything in, and getting everything in does seem to be the name of the game, because that means the welders can't try and screen all the shell shockers, but the stouts still do get plenty of damage in. Does look like the second wave of incisors is coming. Unfortunately, they do look like they're heading into the wrong place. They're just going to die to those beamers. Beamers so effective at taking these ones out. Still, plenty of shell shockers coming in to do damage. With very little conversion and only plus 40 metal, this is going to be a big problem for Kokaido. Does it look like down the bottom middle we have seen Stefan with APH falling, unfortunately. He is trying to run with his comm. but it does look like the combination of Hounds and T1 units was a little bit overwhelming for him. Twig surviving the big attack, massive metal dono, some damage done, but the fusion stays up, some of the conversion stays up, plenty of defense, and now the pushback is here. Those welders do not take much damage, and the comm is out of position, and this is something that is incredibly important when you're playing in the peasant role. Don't let your comm be out of position at that 10-minute mark. Oh no, that D-gun sets off the wind as well, and this is what we were talking about when it comes to grouping the wind. Sometimes when the units are in your base, it's already game over, but in this instance, if that had not done as much damage, it may not have turned it. Oh, that last little bit of damage just there. That's all of the wind generation gone just because they weren't built efficiently. The welders are tanky, but they don't kick out the most damage. So, unfortunately for Noah, that is going to be a nice and big hurt, but plenty of metal on the ground. If he can get his energy economy back up, things should be all good. Twig trying to circumvent the defenses going around the base, has found himself a beamer.
Oh, no.
We'll see exactly how that one goes.
Old mate
An
lost his
attack
base
coming from
already?
the side.
I did not realise that.
Yep. So Twig is in trouble.
Shit.
Unfortunately for the peasants, the incisors are targeting the wrong things. There was lovely conversion to target, and they have not done so. They do manage to get... There we go, they have got it. That winds down the production for Twig. Doesn't count him out, but that was definitely a worthwhile attack. So with 2 of the kings eliminated, it does seem like the peasants are going to be on a bit of a roll. But we do have Cookies Duffy, who definitely is in a position to save this game, already having eliminated his one of his peasants and moving on to the next one. These Jaguars doing a good amount of damage, and there's nothing that's going to be up to stop this. And this is why we say that units are a better form of defense, because currently with the Wardens at the front, that's nearly 2,000 metal in defenses right there, and it is not really able to do very much.
Yeah. When those Mausers outrange them, it's just a matter of time before they're dead. But when you got the base from behind, they're largely irrelevant anyway.
Looks like we have an attack coming down onto Ollie in the right-hand side. A large number of Tiger tanks. They are running into the beamers, and there is so much repair coming down on these beamers. I don't think that we're going to get a breaking of those unless you target the right things. With the running into the comm, it doesn't look like that's going to happen. So Ollie in a good spot. Cookie Duffy getting some nice shelling from the Hounds, but the Hounds just not able to get into a good position. If those had been spiders or something, potentially, the best thing to do in this situation is actually keep him contained so that he can't spread out for the moment, and then try to cripple the other lanes. Did a good job of doing that to Twig, but unfortunately not enough coming down from the top to do that. A attack from 3 prongs should be plenty, but with T2 units moving out, the snipers with the welders in front, you're going to have to be very careful on how you approach this one. Essentially, you need to fight where the units are not.
This has ended up being a, I want to say, fairly even fight, in that there's a couple of kings that have won their lanes, there's a couple of kings that have lost their lanes, or more realistically, the peasants won them fairly convincingly. And now we've got about half and half, and it's going to be who can either punch one out or falter masses.
And it also comes down to your decision making. For example, we still have T1 units being produced from the top side by Lindron. They've headed down to try and fight Ollie, but when a run through of 10 Tiger tanks can't break a defensive wall, your T1 isn't going to break that defensive wall.
No, at that point you need
which means
something
that
with a bit
those
more
units,
range
their
to
time
be able
is
to
essentially
punch.
done. And then
There's a
because
lot.
of and then again another massive investment from Frontier into those T1 units. Unfortunately, they weren't in position to help their ally, and in running across to do so, they've met a very painful fate against all of these bulls that have done a large amount of damage, and it does look like this is going to be a very big problem as the Jaguars are here, the bull push is here, and they're going up against the T1 units, which are going to fall very quickly. And we don't have that same level of repair that we did for the beamers, so the
This
beamers
is me
will go
done.
down. They're also not in the right place, which means that the back of the base is going to
My
fall.
Twig.
Looking over at Twig, this is where the T1 unit sometimes still does have efficacy. The Stout is one of those units that even when you're in a T2 position, it has enough health that it can push through. Unfortunately, not quite being microed to the best of the ability, but this is going to be Twig falling, and it is going to be the Kings down to just 2 players, but they are 2 very strong players, Ollie and Duffy. But if they can be prevented from taking too much of the map, then they will only be able to eco so hard. They will only be able to scale so hard, and the rest of the team will be able to keep them contained. Continuous siege and continuous pressure is what you need. Attack from all angles, things like your spiders, things like your ticks. Keep those coming constantly, just to keep them pressured. Use the res bots to the best of your ability, get those fusions back up and running, get the T2 mexes back up and running as we're seeing already. This is the sort of smart decision making that's going to happen, and just trying to make sure the rest of the allies do not fall. Also, Last Frontier did manage to survive that big attack, so nicely done. And I guess the T1 units that came from Lindron did a little better than I was predicting.
Advanced stallers would definitely make a difference there as well. Significantly less explosive than wind farms.
True, but also a very large metal investment.
Yes. You can see that the peasants are basically massing the armies again. I suspect that we're going to see a rainbow similar to what hit Twig all converge on Duffy shortly. It looks like they're getting some units together to be able to try and contain him for now. And then we'll see the push when it arrives.
The big thing is to make sure that the attacks come in simultaneously, because right now the peasants have a 300% army lead, but the economies are actually quite close, within 20% of each other, and with Reclaim going on, it could actually be significantly more out of place than it looks at the moment.
Yeah, if they drip feed these units in, Duffy's got enough defenses there that he will hold. However, if he gets hit from all sides at once, you can only have your army in one spot at a time.
Correct. But it is a heavily defended position. We have beamers all around the base. We have pulsars up. It does look like we've got multiple fusions down, so the income is nice and high. No APHIS, but it does look like Ollie is scaling. So if Ollie doesn't, if the peasants don't manage to break at least one of these, then the economy is going to start skyrocketing for the Kings, and then it's going to become a bit of an APM fight. Something which will do wonders at the moment is one of the players with the highest economy just biting the bullet and going T3, and getting themselves up those vanguards just to start shelling into the bases, because with the density of these, or catapults, either way, with the density of these hills, if you keep the Kings contained, all their economy is almost certainly going to be in basically the same place, and that's either between any of the 2 mexes or just alongside them. There's basically nowhere else that you can put it.
If you land a shot or 2 from the vanguard and something doesn't explode, pick a different spot, because you're probably on top of either a defense or something. But things like conversion and build power go pop real nice. If you can pop all of that, everything else is going to stop.
And just from player view, we already know the the peasants already know where Duffy's economy is, and they also know where the build power is for the build power and the conversion for Ollie, which means that you can get these shots off very easily. In fact, you could do it with some very low tier equipment. I think shell shockers, parking shell shockers around the back of each base would actually be wildly effective. Some very good trades right now for Duffy at the moment. No losses so far, and has taken out an entire T2 and T1 army just through good positioning of a Pulsar and a couple of Razorbacks fighting where they fight best. This is not what you want to be doing if you're is not what you want to be doing if you are the peasant players, because you're throwing away potential metal and allowing that expansion. Get yourself the radar jammers, get yourself some nice hard hitters like snipers, and just keep the siege on.
I don't necessarily disagree with having something kind of in front of Duffy to keep him busy.
Yeah, that was 9,000
that was
metal.
essentially-
That was a 9,000 to 0 metal trade.
I didn't realize it was quite that much.
Yeah, that was not good.
Loss.
Is this the coordinated assault?
Possibly,
It doesn't look
though
like
it doesn't
it's gonna
look
be
like
enough.
Blue is coming in from behind to assist this one. Also, we're missing Bobber's forces too. So a lot of this is just going into the grinder because tanks take a long time to walk up those cliffs. There's no ticks to absorb shots. The question is there going to be enough damage out the back to make a difference? Because all these units have to do is get a little bit of damage onto those onto the conversion. If they are microed, which they are, then that's the build power down, the conversion down, and that is going to be enough to punch on through. Just a couple more shots over here, and there we go. That's
all the
all
build
of
power
the...
and conversion gone.
Yeah. And there is basically no recovery from that anytime soon.
The whole team is wasting energy.
But the ironic thing is that the economy is exactly the same as it was about 5 to 6 minutes ago, because Ollie's come online with 3 APHIS at the moment, and is pushing out with Titans and Razorbacks on the other side. So the peasants need to mop this up nice and quick and try to move on. Question is, what are they doing in the background? We're not seeing too much in the way of heavy eco scaling from any of the peasants of the moment. Oh no, there we go. We do have Potato, who is eco scaling for the team, and I don't mind having one eco scaler in this. But the important thing again, it is unit choice, because right now the thing that is needed is to fully break Duffy so he can't come back online, and then to push out. But fully breaking Duffy is pushing through 5 Razorbacks and a decent number of Pulsars, and almost everything from the combined forces is dead now.
Yeah, Duffy was lucky in that he had a couple of straggler construction turrets that survived, and just having a couple of construction turrets that live with your constructors means that he's able to get back up and running relatively quickly.
On the top side, we do have Ollie pushing out. Unfortunately for the defending peasant, kept a lot of his starlights together, which meant that they chain reacted once they took that first shot, so little damage was done by those expensive units. And we are seeing potentially powerful push here. There's a few heavier defenses here, the Bulwark and a couple of the Scorpions, but they're not going to keep Titans out. So we do need to see some pushing up. The problem is that the peasants are very divided in their strategies at the moment. We're seeing forces of like 4 to 8 spiders walking up these cliffs. That's not going to work. Blue has had sharpshooters in the middle of the map, so it's metal that hasn't actually been doing particularly much at the moment. And then the forces that were wiped out in front of Duffy's bases are just taking more and more casualties from this ever-expanding amount of Razorbacks.
I don't mind seeing the tick line, but it's not going to achieve anything at this point.
It has pulled the Razorbacks back because the tick line is actually enough to threaten those Pulsars. Because if there's one thing Pulsars can't deal with, it is ticks. But just as an example of what was needed here, if Blue's snipers were available in this situation right here, they would be able to pick off these Razorbacks, and there would be very little Cookie could do, but they're on the wrong side of the map for that. And they are, I think they're yet to really engage with anything. They've got 3 kills so far.
What got into Ollie's base?
Good. Oh, that would have been okay. The spiders that we said weren't going to be overly effective were overly effective.
All you need is like 1 or 2 of their missiles to hit the conversion, and the conversion just goes straight down.
Yeah.
T2 walls would be the answer for the back there of the of Ollie's base. Unfortunately, most of his BP has been on these Titans, and really spam is what's going to be getting out and getting through this base up here. But I think it's too late because the other side of the map's really coming online with multiple fusions.
Yeah, it is. It's one of those things where the spiders did manage to hit, but it's a situation where the spiders shouldn't have been able to hit. Or let me know in the comments if I'm wrong.
Or when you end up filling your entire space with economy, it gets to the point where if anything gets hit, then your entire base tends to go boom.
Yeah. I'm finding a lot of these
couple.
peasants are sitting back a little bit too much, giving Duffy the room to move around. There's not really been that much reaction. And going into an APHIS out of Potato when he's got 4 Razorbacks walking straight towards him is going to probably mean that APHIS is going to be up for about a second.
APHIS has been building for the last 5 minutes or so. Their metal just hasn't been there because he's been trying to do 2 things at once. If you're going to go into the APHIS, then don't build the spam. If you're going to go into the spam, don't build the APHIS. Because the result of that is that these Razorbacks are going to clean up this entire area. And this actually puts the... I wouldn't say it puts the Kings back on the map, but the fact is that other than comms, there's very little in the way of defenses here.
Yeah, I don't see even these 2 Razorbacks. There's not much that's going to stop them unless these pulsars come up for Noah Chris just north of this base. So
and this is where Duffy's making a mistake. He's fully clearing out this base. You don't need to. Once you sort of break the major aspects of the component of the base, aka
crippled,
the build power, the energy generation, and the conversion, you need to move on and just keep rolling around the map.
I am surprised that we haven't seen any Vanguards.
There has been some. Ollie put a shield up over his base. Protect that. We've got Psycho Puke, who's got some T3 production coming down from that top side.
Yeah, we do have the T3. I did miss that.
Here we
but
go.
The actual important thing is the ambassadors.
Yeah.
Yes.
These have been available
there for a little while.
For a very long time, but they just weren't used. We've got a pause. Yes, it is.
Just resume the game, please. Unfortunately.
Battle resumed.
So basically, units are all good. You can do what you need to do with units. We turn off the units that we don't allow, and we also in particular, the only honor rule with this one, when it comes to units, is not walking your comm in before 15 minutes and comm bombing a base. That's the only particularly important one.
And the thing is, at this point, it's basically clean up rather than crippling the other team.
The Razorbacks made it all the way to the middle and is taking out the ambassadors. That Razorback has had quite the journey. 184 kills, 2 to 3 bases, a successful defense. What a legendary Razorback.
His ambassadors probably could have done a lot more against Ollie's base. Thing is, he's got those shields going.
Well, one of the things,
the Vanguards,
when you
they're
look at
bouncing off quite a bit.
When you look at the player views, the
Vanguards
blue
are killing
team knows
themselves.
everything that they need to know about Ollie's base, which means that they can even fire right on the edge of those shields and get splash damage into them. But the shield is well placed.
The shield is killing it. The Vanguards. Look at them jump back down at 1, 2. Psycho Pew Pew is not positioning them in the right place.
That does not matter because the ambassadors are here.
Yeah, that's over.
And this is why you have to remember that those are units. Sometimes it is the T2. Sometimes it is the T2 solution.
Great way to deal with that is just a couple T1 labs when I'm at this stage of the game. T1 labs, just send spam lines around your base, including down the back there. There's nothing that would have stopped spam down the bottom there. Only ambassadors and vanguards.
I actually particularly like putting spiders on my back wall because I can send them out when I start being in danger.
That's one of those things that works much better when you've got control of your hill and can afford to send some units around rather than being on the back foot.
The thing about the ambassador is almost useless against a team that is winning.
Yes.
It is essentially left in here to exploit weaknesses that people haven't seen to try and turn a game around. or to close out a game like this one, where the peasants have a very, very clear advantage after taking out 3 players. And while the kings are doing very, very well, the economy does hit, because the kings have been completely contained, the economy does hit a scaling limit of space. You can only build so many converters in the space that you have, which means that the eventual fall will happen. Unless you get amazing breakouts with Razorbacks like Duffy did. But even then, it just wasn't quite enough. It didn't go into the players that were scaling.
How do they still have so many comps? Ah, Duffy's got it. So they are.
So to answer Stefan's questions, the way the triangle system works is until either the peasants or the king inside the triangle is dead, then you can't move out. The exception being if another triangle attacks you, then you can start moving out. It's not fair to be stuck in your base while you're being attacked from other bases. So that's how that one works. One of the things that would be absolutely amazing is to be able to put in like blocking zones so that we can determine when people can attack. Just break down the zones ourselves. Hopefully over the next 10 years of this game's development, one of us will learn to code in our spare time and we'll be able to add wonderful features like that.
There goes the Geo, those snipers. We'll be slowly taking them out, methodically taking out the Scorpions first, and then bringing that Buffy just down to the 2 fusions. That commander's struggling to stay invisible. The conversion goes down. I think that'll be game over for Duffy. Probably going to be game over anyway with everything coming up there on the right.
Titan's holding as a staunch defender, 157 kills, but with all of the Razorbacks coming up the hill, it just does not matter. Still, quite a few of them falling to the combination of the Vanguards. Pop-ups are actually surprisingly effective against Razorbacks, but when you outnumber them that many through, it is just too much. It does look like Duffy is not degunning. So that is going to be GG, and another victory for the peasants. That is 2 weeks in a row, and weirdly enough, we had Tank Tom in last week, we had Twig in this week, and the only 2 weeks the Kings have lost King of the Hill have been the weeks where I wasn't in it.
I think you're forgetting the
Isn't
previous
that strange?
like 50 before that one, Praetor.
Isn't that strange? I'll let the audience come up with their own conclusions on that one. Good. Flo is in the chat.
Nice. Hopefully our Australian server can keep up with a bigger lobby. Let's just check if we've got any messages about the official. Otherwise, I think we might just be sticking on ours tonight.
Alright, there we go. Oh, we got lots of IDs.
What bonus are we doing for throne at the moment? I cannot remember. I did write it down there. I'll quickly check that. How'd you guys go with it last week?
It went relatively well.
That was at 65, was
from-
it?
That
The throwing games are
sounds
actually quite good, I thought.
about right, I think.
They just the only problem that they really had was a couple of very well done like economy snipes. I will be back in just a second.
If anyone wants to be a king, we take 7 kings, and I will jump out myself. And we'll be moving Ollie and Stephen out as well, if anyone else wants to jump down there. Okay. Potato, bonus 65. And we got Drio. And who else we got? Stephen. Back to team 1. There's our 7 kings, including Tank Tom.
We have many IDs still to go.
Oh no. Maybe it would have been faster to do the good old rebalance.
Potentially, but that's right. I want to say 80% of the way through it now.
See if I can help out.
Gonna double check where we're at again because I think I've got most. Tens.
Ten. So
Yeah,
oh, you've got that one. That's the only one I see. Got quite a few. We're going to bump you guys up to 70s, I reckon.
Yeah, that looks good.
You just got to leave the last game, Tom.
Yep.
Last game, I missed it. Did 2 kings drop really quickly?
Yes. Yes, they did.
I felt bullied as well. I just saw the lines of troop, especially. All right. Won't increase your bonus then, Tom. 65 is what you get.
Oh. Look, I'm in the mindset of get the lobby set up, start the next game, moving on, off we go.
Totally fine, I understand. With Tom here, these run so much smoother. A couple of weeks where he was away, I failed a lot. I reset the lobby a couple times as well. I want to see big things out of you, Tom. By big things, I mean behemoths and juggernauts. And I'm going to post the rules because I can see peasants spawning in the middle.
The rules should have been in a welcome message for everyone.
People do not read. You did post the, sorry, you did include the tweaks for no missile units, I'm assuming.
Oh, we got all the
Raktul is gonna be moved. Commander CMDR, get out of the lava. It's not going to go well for you. Defensive structures only. Oh, it's going to be a medal donation in the middle. Good spread here of players around the outside of the map. I do wonder, are we going to get many common ecos? Some people might disagree with the rules, but they are what they are. After over a year of doing this, we find that the current balance with what units are on and off and what can and can't be used kind of works for a fun game mode. A game mode where kings don't instantly die, because that was what used to happen as soon as these got big. Very easy to put a rattlesnake down and shoot up over a hill. Very boring too.
And there's no way of defending particularly well against it.
Attis, yep, good. That has been moved.
Thanks, Nappy. Nappy likes the rules.
Thanks, Nappy.
Nappy is our friend. Nappies are my friend right now. Oh my god, having a baby. So one good thing about going back to work tomorrow is I don't have to change nappies. I love the rest of it though.
That would be one hell of a day at work if you're in the office changing nappies where you are.
Wouldn't be fun for the co-workers. I think I'm used to the smell now. I mean, it might be a good way to shut down the construction site pretty quickly. Really some sort of OHS issue. Welfare, all the others. Morning, two pumps. Just in time to be one game late. Surely we'll see you in the next one, or the next two, maybe. If Two Pumps streams tonight, I think we'll be handing the baton over to him later tonight if there is an after party.
Are we good to go on this one?
I think we are. We could probably get a 4-star if anyone wants to vote in game. We can't because we are all spectators. Tommy's in game.
Tom can do it.
Tom can do it.
What's this vote business?
Battle started.
Hello and welcome everyone to AllReasonNoLogic's King of the Hill, and you're joining us on Throne, where the red team tries to reign supreme as our kings, led by the almighty Tank Tom of AllReasonNoLogic. In the casting booth you have myself, Predith. Joining me is Twig. Say hello, Twig.
Hey everyone.
Okay, moving on. We don't need to hear from Twig.
Not like you let
So,
us talk
what's
anyway.
going on here? Nope, you missed a chance. Not happening. What's going on here? It's King of the Hill, where we give a small number of players a large bonus, in this case plus 65%, and then we put them up against the Horde, in this case 54 players. The nice thing about 54 players, there's enough for all of the co-op sections around the outside to be full, as well as plenty of dry sea. So if the Kings don't get out there nice and quick, they're going to have the sea coming online at that 20 to 25 minute mark to absolutely roll them. So, what are the general rules for this one? We do have air turned off. We also have T2 and below missile units off, just so the Kings have a nice fighting chance. Beyond that, we don't allow for structures which are used offensively, so you can build them defensively, but we ask that you don't build them offensively. That means things like your long-range artillery. Just make sure that you are not building them so they can fire past the King's cliffs. And if you're building things like Junos, EMPs, and catalysts, then make sure that you do not fire those anywhere beyond the no man's land. And if you're firing in the no man's land, be just a tiny bit considerate. Around the outside, what are we expecting from these players? These are what we would call co-op corners. These co-op corners are where players work together to try to get themselves a nice big economy to rival the Kings. They're the players that are going to have the T2 units up at the 10-minute mark, and possibly even at the T3 units if they do it right. And if they don't succeed on that first push, they're also the players that are going to help catapult the whole team into the future. If you're directly in front of the ramps, your job is to have the T1 supporting units or defenses. Either works. And if you are out on the dry sea, well, just like starting in any desert biome, you start with a bit of a hard start. You've got basically nothing, so you're going to have to be as efficient as possible moving your way around the map. Make sure you build plenty of energy and energy conversion, reclaim as much as you possibly can, minimize your spending on build power until such a time as it is necessary to actually spend what you're generating, and try to build up as much as possible to get yourself going. Work with your teammates to share that T2 lab. But even then, the reality is that with a 5 to 19 spread on wind, you're going to be nice and efficient the entire time going with that one. Build yourself up to a decent economy, scale best you can. If you see the lanes in front of you falling or beginning to fall, big push, whatever, stop production of your resource production. Try to get into some units to help out. We have seen some very effective, even just small number of ticks coming from the players around the outside for scouting that have helped with good vision. Alright, now that Twig's ready for me to throw to him this time, Twig, what do we want to see out of the Kings?
I don't really have much to say anymore. I'm so used to not talking. No. This map throwing changes a little bit time to time. So recently we've seen that resource bonus does not include reclaim anymore. So if you detonate something worth 1,000, you're going to get 1,000 metal out of it. You're not going to get the bonus on top of that. So that means now it is more beneficial for the likes of Potato, Dag Vegan Cat and Drio to buy their T2 off of the center player, feed them the metal, get the T2 out of them quickly, get your mexes upgraded, and then work on these defenses from maybe, I know you're probably better at deciding this than me, Prey, about the 7-minute mark, putting defenses up, T2 and T1. You can't forget the T1 defenses as well. They stop the spam a lot better than the T2. And then the 3 players are on these wings, Tank Tom. We've got Platinum Blonde, Rosie, Platinum Blonde in the middle, and Scarv. They want to be getting eco up, at least a fusion, going into some defenses around these cliffs to stop those T2 spiders that we see at the 10-minute mark. They want to look at building most of their eco over near these cliffs so that they cannot get shelled too easily. And finally, they want to be building units. These are the guys that are going to be producing the most units at the 10-minute mark, or in my opinion, there should be. Out of the 7 Kings, we want these 3 players. Tank Tom, I want to see units out of you at 10 minutes. And then finally, Platinum Blonde in the middle, eco, eco, eco. And if at the 10-minute mark, all these ramps are holding, keep ecoing. Keep ecoing until you get a good amount of T3, but you don't want to wait too long. You want to have that T3 advantage. You want to be going and invading these peasants before they've got defensive T3, before they've got too many sharpshooters to snipe down those T3 units. And also, don't forget about the spam. Always good. Spam can be built by anyone though. That's what I like to see out of the middle anyway. bit of a summary.
Yeah, 100%. The goal of the 3 players on the ramps and the player in the middle is essentially to act as one unit. You need each individual wing needs to be defended, but the reality is the more you pour into the player in the middle at the start, the quicker you get your own T2 mexes. The quicker you get your own T2 mexes, the faster you can scale into your own fusion. When you have your own fusion, you can go those defenses. I think 8 minutes is a good time to start building them, provided that you set your build turrets up in such a way that they're going to be effectively put onto that front. You don't need to worry too much about getting your own economy, because if you pour a lot of your metal into getting that T2 very, very early on from the middle player, they're going to have plenty of metal to scale into a fusion very, very early on. We're talking about fusions that we've seen at 3 minutes coming out of the middle of the hill, and if you have a 3-minute fusion, then you actually have a 5.5-minute APHIS, which is kind of crazy. And if the players around the outside feed even more than that, you can actually have yourself a nice little APHIS farm at 10 minutes, which means that these players can essentially be given the fusions to move out and defend those ramps. And at their job for defending those ramps, you have 2 choices. It's either units or it is defensive structures. The bonus with defensive structures is that they are more powerful, but they don't move. So you can't then convert those into offense. Probably still a good idea, though, because you don't want all of the 54 players around the map from sneaking by you when you send your defensive force out to help an offensive push. So always a good sign there. Does look like Tank Tom getting his second fusion at the moment, which is pretty good for that 7-minute mark. With the metal in the bank, can get it all, can actually build that entire thing. So if he does have enough build power, he will be able to get that one up by the 8-minute mark. Don't think he does quite yet. So that's going to be a ever so slight delay. Just remember, you do actually need those 2 energy converters, and they do take a bit of build power and a bit of time to go up. He's going to need to be ready for pushes up around the ring of the map as well as getting some units out. We know that Kings getting on the offensive early and building that momentum can be very, very strong, but the peasants have the ability to mass produce units early on, which means that they tend to be the ones that can take that middle ground more easily.
Okay, the one other role I didn't touch on in the middle is probably team captain, and Tank Tom, I'd expect that to be you. Take a zoom out every now and then and just make sure that these players that haven't played this before know what they're doing. There is 2 minutes left. Is everyone defending where they need to defend, and is everyone looking to build the units when they need to build the units? I know Rosie knows exactly what they're doing. I think down on the south here, maybe needing to get into some turrets pretty damn quickly. 90 seconds left and not a single tower there. Oh, sorry, they are pop-ups. I thought they were walls for a second. So we do have some T1 pop-ups. They will stop the spam. There will be plenty going into the, what are they called again? The Wardens shortly. We'll be able to stop a lot as well. If there's any T2 though, that will outrange it pretty quickly. Potato is looking well defended, has a good amount of T1 defenses. Going into some walls as well, which are going to do really well against the spam. Only issue with that is if we want to leave the base, this is going to be a very tight base to walk around. You can see a slight gap in between those twin guards, but they might need to see a few extra buildings taken down to get some T2 or T3 units out. All right, 1 minute left. Tank Tom is doing the right thing, building units. Is anyone else? Not really.
Probably not. One thing I do want to point out, Potato has built his APHIS in the best possible position. Yes. This is about as defended as you get right now, and it is kind of going to come up right now. Having an APHIS and being somewhat decently defended means that this is going to be a very strong lane out of Potato. He's going to have the pushing power and the defensive power. Yeah. I would like to see a fraction more in the way of defenses. Something which helps a lot is 2 rattlesnakes. Just to stop things like the snipers and the longer range pushes. But the reality is, with that APHIS up, so long as he grabs himself the conversion to actually use it, that's going to be a massive factor. It's also the first APHIS up on the map. which definitely should not be the case. The middle player is the one that should be getting that one up, but with the focus Potato does into his economy during these early stages, he relies on that extra travel time as well as potentially not quite so much. But with the lava dropping, let's have a quick bandbox on the map. 370 units. We do have some big pushes. One thing to bear in mind as the peasants is that if the push doesn't look like it's going to work, conserve those units. Don't try and waste them.
Oh, and here we go. A few of those ticks getting through, but luckily Rosie sent some Jaguars around, and also Scarb coming online with the Fiends, so they got cleaned up very well.
Now we do have Tank Tom pushing out with a very large Hound force with tick scouting. The Hounds are not the typical units we see for this first offensive push, but there shouldn't really be much in the way of units that can counter them right now. So Tank Tom might have discovered a little bit of a potential fighting clause here, but they need to be well controlled because they do fall reasonably fast, even to T1 units if they get isolated and caught up to, which is what those incisors are doing. But with 21 still on the field, they're going to take out those incisors just fine, and they're going to be on a march around the map.
That's it, and they will hit a lot of this wind. Commanders need to come into place to take these out, so Tom would be wise to keep these well spread as much as possible. Otherwise, they'll go down just like that. 6 in 1 D-gun, a 7th with just what? One D-gun, six hounds, and then the next 7 got 1 hound. But still,
so something that Zania may not know: if you control D the Fiends, they actually explode quite quickly and quite nicely. Probably could have popped those other three hounds that were surrounding them, but with those beamers up, the losses here are not actually that bad. It is a little bit of wind, a little bit of conversion, but the main force has been stopped, which is what needed to happen. So the top side, while they've taken a bit of damage, it's not detrimental of damage.
Tom, where is your macro? You have 7,000 metal and overflowing. Always,
Yep.
prior to 10-minute marks, if I've got metal going up, I will drop construction turrets down and put repeat on labs, and also separate my eco. So if I've got eco in one spot, I'll build it somewhere else just to make sure that if one lot goes pop. Really nicely done out of Dead Vegan out here. Maybe he was seeing Duffy's video from a few weeks back where he went and built a second base down in this little level here. Getting some turrets up there and going for the pulsar already. I do like to see that, just so that we've got more real estate.
Pulsar is built in range of the existing defenses, so that is too far forward.
Potentially, he should just walk forward and knock them out. I don't know if he knows where those defenses are. Let's just take a look at a player view. You can see a couple of them.
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be able to hit where the Kings are likely to be.
Yeah, so you want to keep them short of the ramps. Tom can probably just ping that to him and just say build it further backwards. Okay, looking down south, the pulsar coming out of Dead Vegan is just a little bit far forward. Just tell him to keep him back. Anyway, we will keep our focus in game. Rio moving out with a whole bunch of Sheldons. They've got the auger there. They've got the deceiver to keep them masked. Trying to push, but playing a little bit reserved, and that's because he's got a mammoth and a sumo coming to help support. To take any sort of rushes on, that's going to do quite well. Very lucky that Potato was so well set up, because probably the biggest commie corner over here. And it is unfortunate. It's a commie corner, but it's kind of got two separate communist parties going on. We've got Ollie's base up here, and then we've got, I think, a few others. It's like a pew. If they were combined ecos, we'd see T3 coming out in massive ways. If that was just all put into some labs, that could be a real pushing power out of there. If we could see a whole bunch of catapults launch up over this hill, Scarv would be in trouble. Mind you, very good eco positioning like Praetor was touching on beforehand. This stuff will be quite hard to hit being built so far inland. King's doing well. King's doing very well, pushing out. But peasants, they will scale, especially down in these dry seas. I don't see any units coming out of any of these dry seas yet. And we've got the first of the fusions coming up online. Somewhere, I'm assuming. There's a lot being built. They're doing alright. Ecos are scaling in the corners. So the Kings need to get out. They need to break one of these lines, and they need to start walking around the map. And that's going to be down to probably this in the middle. Platinum Blonde E3 is up. We've got our 4th APHIS, 5th APHIS coming. A little bit short on the conversion, I think. And we're going to see a whole bunch of these big mechs, the Shivas. They've got a missile on their back, plasma shot coming out the front, and they do a lot of damage. They've got a lot of hit points. I think though, on this game, with the speed, the amount of time it takes to walk, demons might be a good call. Want to see them be able to get around the map really quickly once the lane breaks. You want to abuse it as fast as possible before the holes gets plugged. Okay. Dead Vegan still staying strong on the right.
One of the things that's been quite a lot slower for this game, normally we see some sort of T3 attack for the towards the Kings at this point in the match. Whether that's vanguards or catapults, we usually see something pressuring the Kings. At the moment, the Kings have been left moderately unpressured for the last 6 minutes. There have been probing attacks with T1, but we haven't seen things like the spider attacks that keep people on their toes. We haven't seen things which are forcing units. So, for example, if we look at the damage dealt at the moment, we have quite a lot of Kings that are very, very low. So, for example, Rosie on 7,000, Platinum Blonde on 14, Potato on 41, and Dead Vegan Cat on 42. While units have been built, there's never been a point where they've had to stop building their energy production and their conversion in order to make that happen, which means that we're approaching equity in income at the 16-minute mark, and if that's hit before the 20-minute mark, it indicates the Kings are in a very good spot.
Tom, though, once again forgetting to put repeat on his advanced bot lab. 6,000 metal in the bank again. He does not know how to hit that bottom.
Last time you played bar?
It's been a while.
Never have to stop producing when you got this much metal coming out of the middle.
That is true.
He has been doing good though. He's fixing the base everywhere, and on the right we're pushing down with a couple pawns. There are leaks forming, especially with this many vanguards and this many this many welders could just almost walk. I think these could just walk forward and do a lot of damage. Thunderstruck getting there with his comm might do some damage, but unfortunately a tick or two running into him and he goes down, and that might trigger a port forward, especially because there's a shield up here. These vanguards aren't doing much damage against the shield.
One of the things you can do is try and target a little bit deeper, so they're forced to high trajectory fire, and then when they high trajectory fire and bounce off the shield, they might hit something further in while still slowly knocking the shield down. A single shield will actually fall to how many vanguards are here, so that is definitely a possibility. And there goes the Geo.
Nicely done. Rosie coming here, pushing forward,
absolutely huge,
being aggressive, and we're going to see these fusions probably pop shortly. With the spam coming through in the background, this is really good. All Kings just about overflowing metal, apart from a couple. Need to just make sure that they're constantly spending that on T3 in the background. Jeff trying to chase these down, but his name is no longer Jeff.
My name is Jeff.
You need the energy. I like to always build a storage just in case my commander has to go for those D-guns. That means I've got about 10-15 seconds of walking before that energy runs out at this stage of the game. And that is the first peasant wing to fall. The Geo has opened up.
One thing I want to quickly touch on. If you look at the peasant player view, we are approaching 20 minutes into the game, and their vision into the high ground is essentially nothing. And that's a really big problem when one of the main tactics needed to break the Kings is using units like catapults and vanguards to deep fire and take out things like conversion, take out fusions, take out build power, that sort of thing. Because there's been no one that's gone for these spider attacks, there is no knowledge, and it's starting to get to the point where it's going to be very hard to get that knowledge. So even though we did have catapults from Team Newt in the top left-hand corner, they're firing entirely blind, and they're not hitting anything because they don't know that there's nothing there to hit. And this is where the power of the peasants can also be their complete undoing. you need to have players, you essentially need to utilize the fact that you have so many players. Some players want to be early spam, some players want to be late spam. You need to have some players willing to sacrifice their economy to go for that early spider push, because if it does nothing but gives you vision, it's still a valuable tool. You need to have players that are going for that T3 artillery, players going for that T3 defense. But what's happening at the moment is that a lot of this has been very disjointed, because I think there's quite a lot of newer players in the in playing tonight, and so we haven't seen that coordination that we do normally see, where some of these corners really take off and they get that early aggression and they force the Kings into a tough position. Instead, we've just seen the Kings being essentially free to do as they please for 20 minutes, and this is the sort of result that brings. That's Razorbacks around the outside cleaning things up. It is massive spam coming out to support vanguards. It's one entire side falling, without the other side really being able to put pressure back on the Kings.
What we need to see out of this,
able to do is the Kings is actually get out this game.
and that's the pressure that Prey's talking about. It's just not been there out of the peasants. There's been a lot of eco happening. I mean, this heavy eco position here, we can see APHIS after APHIS being built, and not that many units being built. Like a few mammoths out of Ollie, we've got a few catapults, but we're up against Shiva's demons spam, a lot of spam, and now we're going into a lot of tanks as well. We've got weasels on repeat out of here, and so Potato's lane is looking very healthy for the Kings. It looks like that's going to be able to push north and meet up with Rosie's T3. We do have a D-gun incoming though. This might be a big one. Got a couple go down there, a couple more really nicely out of Drainer, and that's another eco almost popping, but we don't see that APHIS yet, I don't think. Player view. No, it is there. Oh, there's a fusion that's seen, not an APHIS. They are targeting fire on potentially the Geo in that T3 lab. It's not going to see much of a pop though. Maybe they're going for this pulsar, because that is doing quite a bit of work. Each one of those shots taking about 2/3 of the life off of a Shiva. Spam coming around now, and this will be cleaned up. Zooming back out, looking really healthy out of Dead Vegan Cat as well. Going in the opposite direction of Rosie, pushing around with T1 and T2. There's also the odd Razorback and Vanguard in the mix as well, shooting from distance, pinging off these commanders, hoping to not get degunned. Good amount of T1 here. This really stops the chance of a degun getting off and taking out multiple units. How are the peasants going to get back on this?
The realistic answer is that they may not be able to, with 140% army value in favor of the Kings and income being approximately equal. The Kings have to essentially lose 2 units for every unit that the peasants lose, and the problem is that a lot of the units that the Kings have are spam, which are not particularly expensive and not counting too much towards that total, or that T3 units that are going to do a lot of damage. For example, just back here we have 22 catapults. Back here on the right hand side we have 22 catapults that are sieging at the moment, and 22 catapults is almost 100,000 of that metal value. And that's not something that's going to disappear anytime soon, and they're just going to keep getting damage upon damage upon damage done, and they're about to run into the largest eco available on the peasant side, and that eco is it's very important for the peasants to have. If the situation ends up like this, where the Kings are able to siege it down, then it means there was too much eco and not enough pressure, because the rear Kings are now able to fight on this frontier as well. Whereas if the pressure had been put on earlier, then potentially additional resources would have had to be diverted to this side. The back may not have fallen, and we may not be in the situation we are right now.
Yeah, Ollie's now up with T3, so this is going to be very fast T3, but I feel like it's coming probably about 2 APHIS too late. With these catapults just out of range of the ecos here. Shivas should be able to push back a lot of this, but I just feel that these catapults are going to just do too much damage before they get close enough. Like I said that. They're not getting pushed forward right now. Just on an attack command.
they are also waiting for the Shivas and the spam from their own team to come.
This is true. The sniper's working around just off the top of the screen there. That's clearing up the top quite nicely. There is an odd Karganath that's just getting taken out. Sharpshooters take them down so quickly.
One of the things to bear in mind in this situation, things might look particularly bad because you're fighting up against all of those catapults. Catapults are not highly mobile, and you can see where they are based on the missiles coming out of them. A couple of EMP structures dropped onto those will actually completely cripple them for about, 20 to 40 seconds? I can't remember exactly what it is.
I think it's about 8 to
the
20.
EMP missiles come up very quickly, and the reality is that these will stand in a line, so if you know where one of them is, you can kind of blanket fire them across. And that's the sort of thing which would allow this to turn around, because if those catapults are not putting fire down, then the reality is that you've got a handful of Shivas and a tiny bit of spam that you need to try and stop. If you can just get your own catapults firing onto where there's a EMP'd, you're going to be in a very, very strong position.
Alright, maybe those Shivas just came out in time, although the Geo had to be reclaimed. They have not been able to breach any further. They're just on the cusp of this eco, and if any build power goes down, I do think they're a little bit stuffed. But I think the wreckages are one of the best defences right here. You can see all of these Shivas on the ground are leaving a big clump of metal to walk through and around. So these Kings are going to fall back a little bit here, just to go and aggress a little bit. I'm just going to quickly look down the bottom right. I'm very surprised to still see 3 bases down here, just as I say that. Marauders are coming, and they might clean this up.
They're on the way.
Yeah, this section in the Dry Sea was sort of left alone while the players tried to siege their way around the inner the inner part of the peasants' half. But it was turning into such a loggerhead with things like the Banishers actually trading very well, Vanguards in the background, huge front line of Karganaths, just an absolute deadlock of no moving forward.
We would love to see a massive T2 army of spiders set forward out of this bottom left corner, because that is possibly one way that they could still get in, given that the peasants are only a little... It's literally from here to here. Peasants' ground, King's ground. There. All you need to do is cross that one little valley.
The thing about the Kings is that if you can break even just one King, you have a free path essentially into their base. Right now, what we're seeing, as far as defenses go, in front of one of the remaining King's bastions, where, by the way, they do have 13 Karganaths, is 2 pop-ups and a beamer. If those Karganaths charge forward, they would kill Rosie without question. And then they would have an open path to get one of Drydo's Aphis. And if Drydo's Aphis detonates, I reckon that'll cause a chain reaction through all of the remaining conversion on the top half of the map. So hopefully we see something like that, because the top left-hand side has fallen to a massive tick push and to the catapults. We're just about to see the conversion go down, and then we're going to see the Aphis, but it does look like those Kargis have marched forward, and they have spotted the vulnerability. They're going for the Aphis. There's not going to be enough to heal that one before it's taken out, and that explosion is going to take out any hope of defending the rest of the...
Probably going to take out too many Karganaths with it.
Yes. And that's where, if all the Karganaths had gone instead of just the light blue ones, I reckon this would have had enough punch to go through. Because if there were another 4 Kargis up here, oh, mass EMPs, really nicely done. Dead vegan cat using defensive EMPs to
great use of those.
Yes, it is.
This is why we do leave them on.
Done.
One of these rare instances of why they get left on. That has just probably saved Drio's economy there. Nicely played.
Nicely done. And now those Karganaths are not available for defense either, which is a big problem. Though not as big of a problem as you would expect, because it is going to be the line before. It is going to be all the units coming from behind that are going to take everything out. So we do see a fusion going down. That is the Aphis, and that is the hopes and dreams of this bottom middle lane going up in glorious, glorious atomic fire.
Let's keep our eye now back onto this top left, where still We have not seen the fall yet. We have seen the T3 lab go down out of... I can't even remember who this player was. The one that previously had the Geo. Unfortunately, they have been taken out, and that was done by moving these catapults around this corner here and just lobbing up, rather than trying to base everything front on. And now this should just be enough catapults to target these AFS. The build power is going to go down, and with the build power going down, it's going to mean that it is going to be no more T3 coming out of that T3 lab, especially because the T3 lab is gone. So that's Ollie having problems. If the eco goes pop, we're at 35% on that last AFS, and they've pulled back. They've pulled
The problem
back.
is, so those, just from trying to do that and standing in the fire of the handful of Cargonists that are there, the number of catapults has dropped from about 20 to 11.
Yeah.
And it was the wreckage of the experimental gantry that prevented those shots from landing on. So whilst I do like the idea of pushing up to claim it, you have to pick your angles correctly, and also sometimes it is just worth waiting that extra couple of seconds to have the backup that can fight the Cargonets, because there is nothing else coming out of this top left-hand corner, which means that losses here are unnecessary because it's not going to prevent you from taking this base.
No. Link just sending Ollie all of his build power so he can hopefully get his base back online. I always recommend putting at least one break in your build power. Not that it matters for Ollie, that is a good 12, 14, 16. I don't know how many AFS going pop. That was the biggest economy out of all of the peasants. Alright, that should be a walk around from the top now. There is quite the economy infusions out of card grade here, but that's about to go pop now. We're going to see them go down quite quickly with all these catapults. And down the bottom of the map, we've still got a complete wraparound out of that vegan cat. But these kings have been doing great. Got a self-detonation out of Last Frontier. Unfortunately, getting zapped by Thor just at the last second before a D-gun went out. There is a behemoth here, though, that should push both of, most of these back. That is if this advanced Geo doesn't go down. They've only got 4,150 hit points. It does not take much to kill our advanced Geo.
The thing that I would recommend, if you see a Geo, just fight somewhere. Oh, sorry, a Behemoth, just fight somewhere else. Unless you have the tools that are specifically the tools for beating it, just fight somewhere else.
A commander,
because you take way too much damage.
King's doing really well. I love that there's still a player on the right, just investing slowly into TV.
Something to note, the Kings currently have 16 APHIS, I do believe, maybe a couple more. Yeah, they have 20 APHIS at the moment, and their actual income is around about 3,200. The peasants were sitting at around about 2,200 right up until the most recent wave of economy explosions. If the peasants had been able to contain the kings just a little bit longer, the eco would actually stay in favor of the peasants all game, because the kings can only produce so much where they are up there. And with the dry seas being active on this map, they really do come online in a big way. So, for example, Rudy Winkler in the bottom left-hand side has got himself 4 APHIS. It's got more than that. 4 APHIS, as well as Stefan with AHP has got himself 2 as well. These players would really be coming online in a big way right now if more of the map was alive, and these would be able to tip the scale and force the siege back in favor of the kings. But unfortunately, with essentially over half of the map, looks like actually it's about 2/3 of the map in favor of the kings, and with the army value at 500,000, the kings just have gotten on a roll and they just haven't been able to be stopped.
Yeah, good engagements from the demons at this top left here. The Razorbacks being too balled up, and because the demons do a lot bigger area of effect, these are going down a lot faster, these Razorbacks, and now that's a base falling. That was doing quite well at defending for quite some time there. I will just do a correction there. There are 21 APHIS, including the Armada ones, for the kings, for those math nerds that like to kind of do the maths in their head, which is not me.
At the time, there were 20.
You said 16, the 16 core ones, I assumed.
I said 16, and then I selected the rest and said actually 20.
My bad.
Jeez, Twig. So, just trying to call me out right there. I see what you're doing. I
heard 16 and I was like, that looks like there's way more than 16 right now. Start counting. Okay. A lot of Kages down the bottom right. They're doing well because they do well against T1 as well as T2. I don't mind that unit choice with somewhat limited eco. There are a number of Thors though coming out of Dead Vegan Cat. If they launch their EMPs at the right time, that's going to really do a lot, especially because these Kages are really bunched up. Can you imagine if you just like hit a line up there of EMPs? They'll just turn them all off for about 10 seconds. And T1 will take this out quicker than you realise.
However, top left-hand side, middle left-hand side, sorry. The March of the Demons in T1 is now starting to become a somewhat unstoppable force here. Demons are a ludicrously strong unit in King of the Hill. They lay down so much damage and they don't have particularly far to walk and get whittled down.
Looking on the right, I can't miss this. That one player that was left online, not me, had built an absolute ton of Recluse and some very heavy what are they, paralyzers, our dead vegan cat, have stopped them in their tracks. And someone wrote rule break on that. That is not a rule break. That is 100% defensive use of structures. That was shot into this middle tier, which is no man's ground at the 10-minute mark. So that was completely legal. That was one of the best EMPs I saw out of the corner of my eye. That took out that entire army, and that good 60.
I don't know if you're seeing this, but the spiders are having trouble walking into the base because Tank Tom's built walls on these high ground bits, which means that they can't actually bypass.
They walk straight through T1 walls.
No, but they
don't.
They don't
go through T1 walls.
Which means they can't walk up and through like this.
Like just the pathing. It doesn't read the pathing.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure.
So that's an interesting one. We haven't seen them be that effective.
So I'm struggling to try and fend this off.
They're trying to get up and over, but yes, you are right. It looks like they cannot path over them. Trying to find a single gap. I can see one right there.
But with the demons making their way around the dry sea, they've just taken out the entire left wing, and they're now all the way into the main economy sections. The dry seas have done a very good job to help and to keep things funded, and to get to the point they're at now. But unfortunately, the demons are here to ruin their days, and the effort gone in to try and assist the king's to assist the peasants is just not quite managed to pay off this time, which is unfortunate because I do like seeing these economies build from absolutely nothing. And that means we're going to be down to essentially the Karganeth defense, and the Karganeth defense is going to start falling pretty hard once the longer range units start coming along. If you are up against the Karganeth defense, one of the things that absolutely destroys Karganeth quickly, anything along the lines of Titans or Vanguards, Catapults, anything like that, the Karganeths just cannot catch up to them, and they are stuck taking a lot of damage. They bunch up when they move because they're so slow, so any sort of AoE or beam-based weapon does a very good job of taking them out and avoiding their DPS. I do love the fact that one of the players, not a meme, nearly managed to take out Tank Tom in the final moments of this game, and this is why you should never stop never stopping. It is 100% worth taking whatever play you can, trying to make whatever play you can, because again, if the kings do take damage, they tend to fall rather hard, because let's just say that those had been able to come up on Tank Tom's Aphis, that would have certainly chain reacted into one of Dead Vegan's, possibly two, maybe with the fusions going down. It just sort of depends a little bit on how much of an explosion radius, and that would have opened up the entire top half to deal damage. Unfortunately, not a lot to take advantage of. Why are there Ballistica?
Where?
How are there Ballistica?
Where are you looking?
There shouldn't.
Bottom wing. That's interesting. It doesn't matter because they're not shooting anything important, but that doesn't seem right?
Yeah.
Didn't copy
We
and
may have
paste.
forgotten to turn them off.
It could have been something to do with the expansion of the lobby. Some settings.
Oh yeah, they are. Yep, they are on.
There you
So
go.
game enders were in fact on, but it didn't matter because nobody thought to use them for anything particularly effective.
And we appreciate that.
We do, we do.
Well,
And it does
Pot
look like that
staying
is the
there for so long.
Battle ended.
Nicely played, Kings. That was very well done. Peasants not pushing, unfortunately. Playing that one a little bit placidly.
And that is the unfortunate thing. Once the Kings start getting momentum, you really do need a concentrated defense to shut it down. We did see it on the bottom right-hand side. All of the offense basically stopped in the bottom middle of the map. But unfortunately, by that stage, the damage had been well and truly done, and then the rest of the Kings could push out and help the rest of the map, which swings the balance very heavily in the Kings' favor. They are a very big hammer; they can only really be in one place each, but that one place is a lot when they take out half the map. On that note, that's the we will jump into the next one. So I hope you enjoyed that one, and we'll get ready for the next one.
Thanks for the follows during that game. We don't usually announce them during streams in case they get used during the next week's video on YouTube. And my game is just, no, it's still there. Wanted to crash. Had a few crashes this week. So yeah, thank you, If Expense, and who else we got? Tetru. Cheers for hitting that follow. And if anyone else wants to hit that follow, do encourage it. We are here weekly, Sundays. I'm also around quite a bit during the week playing unranked small or large games. Now, Tom, if you do copy and paste out of the Discord, just remember not to copy any of the team rules because they will wipe the event mode.
Yes, I left that off.
There's 2 of them in those debug lines. I did mean to get on earlier and delete those, but life. Oh, life. What are our numbers looking at? I really wish that the drop down arrow would not appear over the top of how many people I've got in here. I think that's 60.
It is in fact 59 as peasants.
And Raptor Crater, we're going to do, if there's not too many, yeah, actually we could probably go up to 70 or 75.
I'm just waiting for it to load. I know that. Oh, there we go.
It crashed. Awesome.
Yeah, it was taking a while. We will have a lobby back up again in a second.
I don't know if
Yes,
one of the mods wanted to pick a good one. A healthy server. I think you might be doing one ourselves, Tom. I'll just message Flo.
Yep.
Just in case they're AFK. Okay, we will rename this one.
We'll need one of the mods to open up the lobby
Yeah,
for
I'm
us.
going to. I will ping on the Discord. We'll just give them a couple minutes. They'll probably get a ping and then they'll be here when they can. We do thank everyone for not abusing the raw stuff ups last game as well. Yeah,
I was happy looking at the graphs at the end of it that I was top of the damage dealt up until
I really would have
somewhere near 20
loved to have
minutes.
seen your metal overflowed, Tom. That is the graph I would have loved to have checked at the end, which I forgot.
Donating to the team.
Yeah, Ty, that was you, was it? Over on the right. Those T1 walls really saved the day. If you attacked any of the other lanes apart from Tom's, you probably would have got through with that many spiders. There we go. Flo is here. Flo is saving the day. And then,
Particularly seeing as I was lagging behind at that point. So I saw them coming, responded, and they went from the edge of no man's land to basically attacking my base before I could actually get units to react.
and there was a 20-second EMP in there at the same time as well. All right, it's filling up again. We will try again.
I'm
We'll
just gonna
crashed again. Maybe
So for those of you that are somewhat new to Beyond All Reason, absolutely, it is a phenomenal game, but we are currently doing something that is outside the normal, which does result in some lobby crashes. So if you're playing under circumstances which are not cramming 60 people into a game mode at the same time, and by that I mean like join requests, then you won't run into these sorts of problems. And if you've been watching and you are interested in joining the community and playing the game, it is a free one. So jump on over to the Beyond All Reason website, download and make an account, and you're good to go. And I would genuinely recommend it. This is probably the longest I've played a game since Destiny and Destiny 2. And the longest RTS I've played since StarCraft. So well and truly worth the $0. If you like it and you want to join the Discord community, there's always our community, which is AllReasonNoLogic over on Discord, but there's also the official Discord where you can actually talk to the mods. There's channels for basically everything. If you want to help them build the game, if you've got the skill set and you like it, that is how the game's been made from the get-go. So do feel free to jump on in and assist where and assist if that's your skill set, or just enjoy it like is our skill set.
Here we go. We should be able to get it this time. We just won't let everyone in first. Oh, too much. I can't make you guys bosses.
Yeah, with event mode on, we are somewhat restricted in what we can and can't do.
Did you manage to get the all the lava settings on?
Yep, I
Right.
did all of those before we let people in because we
Sweet.
I started up, locked it, let Flo do his bits and pieces, and now we should be good to go.
Yeah. People, it does say ranked, but because the teams are uneven, don't you worry. It does not affect your rank. Okay, we need 9 kings for this one.
And you were concerned with the last game that we weren't going to be able to win with that bonus.
You did plenty good enough in the middle, you guys.
Yes. The truth of King of the Hill is that the pace of the game is dictated by the peasants. If the peasants let the kings run wild, then the kings have a fantastic opportunity to win. Every minute that the kings are allowed to eco early, so between like the 10 to 15 minute mark, I reckon it probably shifts the king win chance from 50% up by about 5% each time. Because the scaling speed is insane. So
it's hard to
one
get
of
an
the things
APIS up by
we
what,
see-
10 minutes? But by 20 minutes, you're going to have 20 APIS.
Exactly. I believe I talked about the math of this last time, but when you get your first APHIS up, it pays for another APHIS in a minute 30 on a 60% bonus, and then when you have 2, it pays for your next one in 45 seconds. Then when you have 3, it's 30 seconds. 4, it's 24 seconds, something along those lines. And you're starting to see how quickly that scales out of control, because it means that if you get your first one at 10 minutes, your second one's at 11 and a half, your third one is at 12:15, and by the time you're at 15 minutes, you can have 6 or 7. So you really can't let the kings do that if you want them to not explode in eco. And it's very easy to stop them from doing that, because every handful of units they have to build is essentially a delay in the APHIS.
I am looking at IDs again, so I'll let you guys do the team
All right.
bits and pieces.
Tiny objects. Are you in Twitch? Because we don't typically let one chefs down there unless you know exactly what you are doing.
The name doesn't ring a bell, so I'm happy to call them if there's someone else that's down there.
Yeah.
What
One of the
points
things
in?
to bear in mind when you are one of the peasants, in this case you're one of 57, so you're under 2% of the team. When you're one of the kings, you're one of 9, which means that you're 11% of the team. And the unfortunate thing about the King of the Hill thing, unless you can tell us that you are 100% confident of getting to a fusion with a T2 lab and units by 10 minutes, then unfortunately we just have to give someone else an opportunity in Kings, because that's the baseline for success. Anything less than that and it's a disaster lane, and because one lane falling can destroy the entire King's base, it's just not a choice that we can leave.
Yeah, and we have tried it, and it has failed almost every time. That's the lane that does get pushed and loses it for the Kings, which is fine, all in good fun. And don't worry if you're like 1 or 2 OS. If you have played King of the Hill, you know what you're doing, and you know how to play Beyond All Reason. Some of the best kings in King of the Hill are those low OS players that just know how to play King of the Hill. It's like Supreme
Correct.
Isthmus. You might be amazing air, you might be amazing ocean, but then you might not be great at the game overall. So your OS might not be reflective of what you can do in a certain situation.
We also know there's a bunch of people that play King of the Hill, but not many of the other game modes.
Thank
Yeah,
you,
I see Ollie.
Jaleo,
I'm
for pointing out the
fixing IDs
weaknesses.
first, and then I'll go back and check the rest of the stuff.
All right. We missed you because you're an invisible troll. And thank you everyone for joining. This is the one thing that keeps me somewhat happy before I go back to work for the first time since the Christmas break. Just delaying the inevitable. We have 9 kings up against, I think that is once again 60 peasants. Should be a good one. Good to see you all jump back in after the couple crashes. And thank you, Tom, being that keyboard wizard.
And thanks to everyone who is watching. We know that Lobby Sim isn't the most interesting part of the game, but it is necessary in the, as things currently stand.
That bonus off a peasant somewhere. Logic is I just can't see it. I'll say we're good. You need to go back.
We just had an extra one jump down again before we forced start. I'm going to change the team of that player.
And by change the team, Twig's probably going to accidentally kick them because he's completely incapable of functioning as a human being with right-click and select menu commands.
Yeah, I'm actually typing right now. Hot tip, don't put yourself team 2. I may accidentally pick you. Actually kick.
He's actually serious. Most people would say that as just so they have an excuse to do it. No, he'll actually accidentally kick you. I do believe there was one stream where he did it 5 times, and that was the stream where Tank Tom wasn't here because Twig had to do stuff. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think we're going to get this one on the road.
Okay, part of the reason we are only doing 70, not 75, I mean 70 is good. We do this on 65 often, is because there's quite a few names in the peasants that I haven't seen. There's a lot of new faces. We do love seeing you guys here. Get this started. 69 peasants. We'll wait for you a couple seconds, Fertar.
Good thing you said that because I was hovering over the back button.
I think we just, yeah. Let's go. So, big recommendation if you want to join in on these ones and you do have a bit of a slower internet connection. You can jump into while we're playing a previous one. You can jump into your own lobby and just select Claymore, select Throne, and select Raptor Crater, and you can pre-download those maps, so you don't have to do it when you're actually in the King's lobby.
Even if you
Similarly,
just if you or something.
Similarly, if you want, I would do it in the multiplayer, just because I don't know if the skirmish maps are always the same. I know the campaign ones aren't, and that might be what I'm thinking about. The other thing to bear in mind, if you want to practice this one, the reality is practicing and testing, very, very simple thing to set up. Just create yourself a lobby or a skirmish. In this case, it doesn't matter. Give yourself a bonus and set an inactive AI. Move the start boxes to somewhere in the middle, and then just restrict yourself to what the players would have. So if you're in the middle of the map, then grab yourself the 8 mechs in the middle of the map. If you're if you're on one of the wings, then grab yourself one of the wings, and then practice the build, see what works for you. There is objectively better builds and worse builds, but the reality is that if you are able to do a build that works for you, and you feel like it's perfectly competitive, then you absolutely can. With a plus 70, it is very possible to get an APHIS before the 10-minute mark as a king, but there are a lot of builds that don't do that and focus on units instead. Because one thing to bear in mind is, from the casting perspective, we see so many lanes where units would be absolutely gangbuster, and that's out of kings or peasants.
An APHIS is always the riskier play. If you don't get hit in the first couple of minutes, it's the better play. But if you get to 10 minutes and then you have 100 units come rolling down your ramp and you're sitting there with 5 or 10, you're going to be in for a rough time. So what we're looking for is essentially you can get at least a fusion, your T2 lab back up and running, have your defenses enough to stop the couple of run-bys, your LLTO2 to stop the tick from blowing all of your conversion in your base, and have your army ready to go so that when you hit that 10-minute mark, you can be rolling out and be a menace rather than just sitting there waiting to see what the peasants throw at you.
And just spamming a repeat of one of the rules in a little bit clearer English. Do not build any structures up on those hills that can reach the king's mechs, and leave them a little bit of grace as well to build some turrets around those mechs. I mean, as a king, it is also good practice to have your turrets slightly in line with those mechs, so that we know that there's definitely not going to be any grey areas. Similarly, kings, do not build something that can hit the mechs of those peasants on those hills. We've been seeing that in a couple of recent weeks. Very easy, just build your pulsars, your rattlesnakes a little bit further back.
Also, do consider using context clues when you're on a team of what looks to be over 60 people and all of them are outside of the lava except for you. It might be worth considering whether they're all crazy and doing something and doing it for no reason, or if you might also want to be on the outside of the lava.
Asdar K on the official chat. That is I think this is fourth game. Fourth? Third or fourth? Third game. Last one was a long one.
Yes.
I said about the fourth. That's close enough. Alright. It would be great if we had control of the AllReasonNoLogic and, well, we've got AllReasonNoLogic, but the official chat as well, because you can do a stream invite, chat invite, so it merges the two chats into the one. Maybe something we have to organise with the devs at Beyond All Reason. We do our best to monitor both chats.
All right, I reckon it might be worth kicking this one off if somebody wants to throw a force start command in. I do believe we're all in spec, so we cannot do it.
Battle started.
G'day and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to AllReasonNoLogic's King of the Hill on the Raptor Crater. Joining me in the casting booth is Twig and Tank Tom, and we're here to bring you a very interesting match where we have 68 peasants against 9 kings, though a couple of those peasants have started in the middle, so hopefully there's going to be a very swift explosion for those ones and a bit of a metal dono for the kings. With any luck, that will happen. They are still on fire at will, which is a big problem. They are building as well, so hopefully that gets sorted out in just a moment.
Should be what this pause here is.
Hopefully we've got a mod around to delete these. Maybe, maybe not. Very easy, as Praedyth was saying. I mean, Cobalt is AFK. Thank you for control D'ing that one as well, Cobalt. You can see the detonation. Volus, you're gonna have to control D that. No walking out. Sorry, mate.
Resumed. Battle pause. Battle resumed.
It's not on hold fire.
Yep.
If we kick, then they can be taken and...
he knows what he's doing.
I've already done
it. He's already talking.
Yep.
Just whoever takes him, just walk over to that spot there and control D out of the way. Thank you.
Yep, there we go.
Alright, let's get a
Control D.
resume. A resume with less scribbles would be lovely too. If it's self D's right there, it's possibly going to do some damage to this king.
Looks like
we're all good. We're just shy.
All right.
Good
Well,
middle donation.
With that out of the way, let's jump back into what it is that's going on. So, despite the fact that there is some messiness occasionally at the start, this is King of the Hill. It is an honor rules game mode. where players do their best to adhere to those rules, and those rules being essentially spawn outside the lava if you're a peasant, and spawn inside of it if you are a king. The lava drops down at 10 minutes, opening it up, but until that point it is no attacking each other, so you do have 10 minutes to build up. We've switched air off. And one of the big and important rules is what we talk about with structures. Don't use structures offensively. So that's your EMPs, that's your rattlesnakes, your catalysts, your Junos, that sort of thing. If you're a peasant, keep them well outside of the crater. If you are a king, keep them inside the crater. They're there to stop massive cheeses and overwhelming things, and they're also fantastic for dealing with early T3 for both teams. Beyond that, the goal of this match is to build up for the first 8 or so minutes and then start either getting on the defensive or the offensive. If you're a king, usually offense is pretty good, but defense is basically necessary because there are so many peasants around the outside of the map that can really get their game on. And getting their game on, let's talk about the corners right here. So the corner positions in King of the Hill are some of the most important. We call them co-op corners because they are... or communist corners, either way, because this is where you work together to essentially feed one player to get them the early T2, which we're seeing. We're 2 minutes 30, and it's the first T2 on the map. These go around and they tap all the mexes, so this entire side is going to be T2 mexed in at no time whatsoever. They then scale like crazy, so then they can compete with the King's bonus, because with the 70% bonus the Kings have, their scaling is going to be slow at the start, but it's going to ramp as the game goes on. So if the peasants don't keep the pressure onto the Kings, they're going to be in big trouble, and these corners are able to provide that T2 punch that's needed to put the Kings on the back foot. If you're in front of them, or
I'm liking what I'm seeing here in the middle. It's a little bit different, a little bit uncanny. It looks like, is it Platinum Blonde and Rosie working with Grumpiness in the middle, giving out T2. The T2 got given to Ollie as well. And rather than building their own labs, they've just focused on getting the build power up. So we can see more eco come up. I know Ollie managed to reclaim the extra commander as well that detonated over here, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see a quite an early fusion out of Ollie. And Grumpiness going into more of a support role than a hardcore eco role, just making sure everyone's got the NA, even sending some consoles out to Platinum Blonde just to make sure these T2 labs go up quick. And I really like this here, the positioning of these 2 construction turrets on each of the T2 mexes in front of their base means that these are coming up quick smart, especially with these consoles here. We're just doing a tap and run, moving on to the next one, and these are going to come up in almost record time there, less than 6 minutes, and all of them upgraded.
Yeah, all those mexes up by 6 minutes is doing well.
Very similar out of Rosie here. These guys have been practicing. Probably not. They're just gurus at the game.
They've just thought about it.
The base set out here a little bit trickier for Rosie. You can see the spacing there. We need to see the construction turrets spaced. They can't reach both. So pros and cons of each start position. Obviously these ones here on the sides, these 2 mixes to start with, very close together. They make for a quick start, but you can see here these ones on the diagonal with these mixes a little bit close together. Maybe they are a little bit quicker to upgrade in that T2 stage of the economy. And we can see here Ollie's going into the T2 lab. I'm sure a fusion is going to come out pretty quickly as a lot of constructors here going to upgrade all these mexes. What do we want to see out of the Kings as well in terms of timing? Tom touched on it before about the 4 beamers. I like to put them up from about the 8-minute mark. I got construction turret, 4 beamers, and then maybe 1 or 2 pop-ups. And then
one of the
units from 9 minutes.
The build is get your fusion and conversion up, and then build your defenses and army. You need your economy up before you build the rest of it.
Depending how much
Very much so.
pork you want, we see a lot of players like this one over here going into pork a lot earlier on. We see Tavon of us avoid building turrets on. So they're going to be very well defended. Just a lot of metal going into this player's defenses, and you can see there plus 31 metal per second. You compare that to say Ollie over here, who has the same amount of mexes, already up to plus 98 metal per second. So you can really see the differences of scaling versus spending.
the bit that
And the
concerns
earlier
me.
you do that scaling, the significantly more important it comes down to. One thing to look at is the peasants in the bottom right-hand side. 2 T2 labs, and we're barely seeing T2 up for the players in front of the ramp, let alone the ones around the outside. If you compare that to the top right-hand side, we see fusions down already. We see T2 mexes going across the entire front of the corner. This is what it means when you focus that energy into one lab and play together versus playing separately. And this is the game balance is built around at least 2 of these corners co-oping. And we're seeing a lot of T2 labs around these corners. So the peasants are certainly coming into this one with a bit of a background struggle, especially when we're seeing things like a third fusion coming down for Rosie with that T2 lab coming up a minute to go. So both are going to be down, both are going to be ready. And we do have that APHIS nearly complete in the middle of the map by Grumpiness.
I'm hearing shots somewhere. I hope there's no rule breaks.
There probably are, but I would definitely say that Style U is building a little bit too far forward with his defenses. One thing to bear in mind, though, pulsars don't shoot on a parabolic arc. They shoot in a straight line, and I do think that they will actually be low enough. It looks like they will be.
Yeah, but they'll
not
be
gonna
able to shoot up the
anything.
ramp, and I'd say that ramp shot's probably a little bit too close for comfort.
It depends on if it's in range of any of the defensive structures, walls excluded, then it is not okay, and if it isn't in range of those, then it is okay. So it's just one of those things. However, and this is the important thing, with all of this defense going down on one ramp, you've got 2 seconds to go and an open ramp. Oh dear.
Oh, and that
All right,
gets pushed.
we've hit
That's
that
gonna
10-minute mark. The lava is down.
Go.
There are 468 units on the map, and unfortunately, a lot of them are coming down to defended ramps. There are so many undefended ramps, but it is the defended ones that are taking the
That
brunt
one
of
you were
the
talking
assault.
about
Oh,
has got some units rolling through.
Oh, good, excellent. And this is the problem with going too heavily defensive in the wrong place. We have found the hole, and this is where all of the
there's
peasants.
no units being built. These are gonna make it
Oh
to the middle.
god, there's nothing to build units. There's no T2 units. The T1
No,
isn't coming
that's
down anytime
Going
quick.
to be utterly devastating. Right
Yes, it
side,
is.
Ollie's struggling as well. He's had units wrap around his defenses and into his base, and that looks like his build power is going to be going down.
Oh, there's so much build power that it's actually staying alive.
Wow.
That is.
Nicely done.
Oh,
one
But
base
one
dead
of the
though.
kings is taken down, and that is a big problem because that really does open up the map, and it means that you're going to be relying on Natera and Platinum Blonde to close that up, as well as reinforcements from Grumpiness, and it means that they're not going to be in position to take on what else is coming, and that is units coming into the base again, but no damage this time, cleaned up nicely by the Jags. And we also have the T1 units coming to deal with this. So good defense is coming on, but an attack is now coming into Natera from that same exposed ramp. Again, though, plenty of healing is preventing a lot of this from coming down. The Blitzers are a strong unit. They do have good DPS, but it is DPS, not instantaneous damage. So it doesn't always pop what you need it to when there's plenty of defense.
Always
And
go for
unfortunately,
that
they have not
conversion.
built up enough to break through. On the other, up at the top of the
Pressure on
map
the
as
top
well,
right.
Tabin has his defenses not quite adequate to deal with everything. Units getting into the base, but not too much damage done. The
One
build power
issue
is
is-
still up, the energy is still up, and so is the conversion. So plenty of opportunity to get back into this one.
one of the issue with the defensive layout that he had was that units can just walk around those defenses.
Destroyed.
So whilst they slow them slightly, they won't necessarily stop them at all.
And
Because
that's-
of all of this pressure, we're seeing one of the things to note is the difference between the right side and the left side of the map. On the right side of the map, we have essentially no economy coming down, not even from Grumpiness in the middle of the map. On the left-hand side, we have an APHIS being built. We have 2 APHIS being built, and that's the power of pressure. When the players are not under pressure, they can build whatever they want. When they are under pressure, they have to build those units, and if they're building the units when their economy is only at around
Oh,
about
Natera's
100 to
com
200 metal,
goes down. That's 4 comms left now for the Kings. Ollie's, Tabons. What for the others?
But I'm going to be honest, losing comms at this stage of the game, whilst it's not ideal for the later game, getting to the later game is important. And right now, the peasants are doing what they need to only on this right-hand side to break in. Does look like a big attack on the left-hand side with stouts, but they're running into a heavily defended position from Rosie. We have had a question: is this rattlesnake okay? It is fine because it is not in range of any enemy buildings, so it's all good. And they are a defensive tool that are in the game intentionally. Does it look like we do have some Centurions that have made it into Ollie's base, but good at defending by Ollie. Gets a couple of LLTs up, D-guns from the comm, and no real damage done here. There is plenty of T1 to defend, and these players, whilst I do say that you should be continuing to get on the offensive, with so much stuff coming down these ramps at the moment, we have Pounders, we have Pawns, we've got Stouts coming down, we've got T2 building up on this right, like on the ramp below. It's important to choose when you attack and how you attack, because losing units for free is not something you want to be. It's not something you want to do as the peasants, because the army value is actually in favor of the kings right now.
So what happens is at that 10-minute mark, the peasants normally have the advantage. There will be gaps in the king's defenses, as we saw. If you can get in and exploit those gaps, then you can get yourself a leg up. Once we get to this, 13 to 15-minute mark, if the kings are still alive, they tend to stabilize relatively well, and it gets much harder to be able to punch on in the next sort of 5 minutes or so.
Does look like we do have a gauntlet coming down by Astrobot. That is not allowed. Well, okay, so the interesting thing is there's no buildings in range of it, so it technically
I'd say just don't build it. Don't build it.
Don't build it
Peasants
there.
shouldn't
Yeah,
be
essentially
able to
that's
hit anything that's not the lighter orange. If your defenses as a peasant can hit beyond that point, they're too far forward. Similarly for the kings,
it's an interesting nuance that we haven't had to deal with before. Let's say he built it on the low ground, even though it would be slightly further ahead, so long as it wasn't in range of the defenses, that would actually be okay. Because it's on the high ground, I think it still falls under the offensive defenses rule. If you disagree, let us know in the let us know what you think on it, and we'll deliberate and we'll make it clearer for next time. Because this is the first time we've had to deal with that as a thing. Bottom side of the map, the kings are pushing out right now. We do have Grumpiness coming online with the T2 units, and this is quite a strong push with a front line of Jags and a back line of Mausers. One thing I will say, if you're going to do this attack, please throw in spam. This is the attack that I do and the attack that I fail on constantly, because I feel too stressed to wait for the spam to come up, and without the spam you lose so much of it to things.
I was waiting for it. Ollie's base just got taken out by just a couple arbiters hitting that conversion, so all the build power goes down once again. No spacing.
Those sticks are breaking into the middle there.
Thankfully there are beamers and there are plenty of things to defend it, but this is getting harder and harder for the kings to deal with on this right hand side, and the left could be helping more, but they are facing some problems of their own. The problem is that those problems are isolated.
Really want to focus on this right, because that's where we're going to be. We'll come back to it. This is where a lot of pressure is happening. The push that you were focusing on down south there, I think the spam's just not happening because all these T2 units are the spam. He's building that many of them. They are going to eventually push out now that the kings are not there, so I think we'll see the they start rolling around the map, and it's a good combination of having both the Jags for taking out the spam and the Bulls for taking the DPS, taking the hits. So this will go a long way if it keeps coming at this stage of the game. As soon as you start hearing the sniper shots out of the pulsar shots out of the peasants, that's when this is going to stop working. That pressure on Ollie is massive right now, struggling to get the build power up. And
every time he does, it is being taken out by that Arbiter. And this is the
Another
power of just a
deep
couple
bomb.
of units.
or check Uzi's commander. This is what you want to see.
And he's
No,
not
it's
the
not.
first to do this either.
Oh yeah, there we go. I thought it was going to be destroyed by the Control D of the APHIS, but did manage to get that. And yes, offensive commanders. Bear in mind, commanders are some of your strongest assets. Whether it's on the offense or the defense, if they're used correctly, they are ludicrously strong. But the flip side to that is units are the strongest offense for the Kings team, and right now they're just bulking everything down. So many bulls are coming up, and whilst there's a decent amount of T2 to fight it, it's the wrong kind of T2. Any sort of adjustment in movement is going to stop those arbiters from doing very much. An attempt by the comm to stop this one, but the units are just pouring through, and they're changing the gateway that they're coming down. But the problem is that this offense actually has to stop, because it has to be directed to deal with this, because the deeper in the...
to stop the peasants from pushing in. If
Exactly.
it swung right rather than left, then it would be able to remove some of this pressure that's hitting that right-hand side. The left-hand side isn't under threat, at least anytime soon, whereas we can see those comms from the bottom right are walking on through.
And one thing I will
Strongest
say,
offensive we've seen, I think.
when just to push further on what Tank Tom was saying, choosing the direction you attack in is very important. It's very hard to know when you're the Kings, because you don't have scouting information. But just as an example, this bottom left corner is basically ecoless, which means that losing that corner isn't actually going to change the landscape of the game all that much. Because, oh dear, what got the middle?
Yeah, the Sheldons and the Arbiters are the same compositions. Sorry, these ones are sharpshooters. There might have been a couple Sheldons. I definitely saw plasmas coming through here. I've just been trying to focus on this, but there's just too much to watch with what you guys are going on. The Kings are doing well to wrap around, but now the pressure's all on your defense. You can see Rosie, Platinum, Link are all sending units back into the base. That means they're no longer putting pressure on those peasants, so that means those peasants are now going to be able to focus on the eco again. You're going to get this bottom corner. You're going to see Liz building these aphises because there's no pressure coming down there anymore. And you're going to see T3 coming out of Cobalt soon. So I do love to see this.
One of the most useful pieces of information they have is who is throwing units at you.
Yes.
Because there's a very good chance that
Hot potato
is throwing units
so close.
is going to be the one.
Is he going to get there? Is he going to get there? Hot potato, do it, son. D-gun.
It's close enough. It's close enough.
It's got it all. What a hero.
Units come in real handy.
You legend, Hot Potato. That's awesome. That right there that basically means the Kings are now down to half of their players. That is a huge tipping point, because that was a big eco. For APHIS at 70%, is what? It's almost 500 metal.
The bottom 2/3 of this map is now entirely open.
The thing is, the Kings aren't out of this yet. Their eco is low right now, but their eco is low because they're not converting. Right now, if converters were built, they'd actually be able to equalize.
Oh, another Razorback inner base.
Oh god.
That one taking out.
Okay, it's starting to look worse and worse. I'll pay that. But the economy is not the only story. Right now, army values are not too dissimilar. It's 170k to 193k, and a lot of that is spam. The Kings have a very powerful defensive Razorback force, but it is falling slowly to quite a lot of Starlights. One thing I want to see is those Starlights spreading out just a little bit more. They are too close for comfort. But the peasants are putting the hurt on. They are really putting the hurt on, and this is why. And while we're in lobby, we did have to shift around a few players, because this is why we only allow Kings that have a degree of confidence in themselves to play these roles, because any undefended lane can result in this, and one lane being open cascaded into so many problems because everyone was out of position defending it. players were able to walk around defenses and get into bases. It was a very, very hard thing to fight. Kings, though, still trying to push out and do a good job. These brutes have been fighting at the bottom left-hand side of the map. The Razorbacks are now here to push through, and we do have some inattentive comms that are not cloaked, that are not ready to do the D-guns. You really do have to make sure that you utilize your comms for defense as best as possible, because even at the 22-minute mark, not every peasant that's been working on the front line is going to have what they need to take on Razorbacks, and so your comm is your contingency in that situation.
So much trying to punch through on this top right out of the peasants, trying to get through. I just feel if they shifted around a little bit and attacked from the direct right-hand side of the map instead of going...
bottom of the map. Bottom of the Kings, we've got a nice big push of ticks coming in.
Very nice amount
They
of
are
ticks.
going to be eaten by a lot of these build turrets, but the build turrets do go down, and they are now in range to try and take on some of these more valuable targets, but they are being picked off by the build turrets. I don't think they're going to get that APHIS in time. They are now being chased down.
Space goes now.
No! The other Splinter Force that I didn't watch broke in and took the middle of the map. That right there means that the energy economy is now more balanced with the conversion economy. So you could say that that's an efficiency win for the Kings. They're now converting slightly better, but that's the only upside that I say the Kings can have out of that.
Hey guys, it's great. You know,
down to
we've
2.
got a nice cozy fire. The house is burning down around us, but hey, look, we're warm.
And that is the truth. The Kings have done a very good job. They broke up from the bottom. They broke up the ramps in the bottom right, and they worked their way all around the bottom left. I think that if they'd picked the other direction, things could have gone slightly differently, but the peasants just managed to keep that offense going, and enough players came online to deal with things that we are now in a situation where the majority of the King's eco has been wiped out, and now it is some defensive bastions holding on. They may take a little while to come through this, but as things stand right now, there is a lot of damage coming down on them. And we do see smart targeting here by these ticks. They are trying to go for the build power before getting eaten, but unfortunately for them, they are still getting eaten. There should be enough here, though, to make a difference. It is much harder to heal something like an advanced energy converter than it is to heal a build turret, and that is going to be a nice explosion right there as the rest of the map is wrapping up down to 300 metal income, and the top of the map falls. That's the last of the king. That's the last of the King's production bases down. Only defensive structures left. So the peasants have done a very, very good job, and they managed to leverage a few weak points they found, which is why we always suggest sending units down every single ramp to find those weak points, because with no aggression, the peasants can definitely struggle, because you saw what happened with the one successful push the Kings had. It was just funded by so much metal and had so much chunk, it felt unstoppable.
The last APHIS of Rosie, the last remaining king with any sort of production worthy of producing T3, about to go down. That last comm, I think they've given up, which is fair. It is an overgame. Really good pushes on the rights. Probably some poor defensive decisions out of a couple of those Kings. Probably not enough units, maybe a tad too much eco out of 1 or 2 without having units at that 10-minute mark. You want to make sure you've got T2 units out to defend against lots, or just lots of T1 units. I mean lots, because we have
What I was
the likes
impressed
of
by
hundreds of
was the
units come
use
up.
of comms by the peasants. The number
Yes.
of comms that got in and did damage to bases
And about
was
time.
massive.
We keep talking about that. Why do we not see more comms walking in? Best unit in the game.
Before we roll out, just a couple of things to look at in the stats. Looking at the metal produced, look how similar a lot of the peasants were. And there was no massive... What we normally see in these games is a lot of massive scaling out of a bunch of peasants, or middling scaling out of a bunch of the peasants. because so much was invested in units,
that's
we
a
didn't
big-
see too much of that. And I think that's one of the big flips that made this victory possible for them. Looking at the damage dealt as well, just look how much blue is in that first little slot between the 10 and 13 minute mark. That is a lot of area under the graph, which is a lot of damage done in that time period, which is again what makes a difference in these games. It is those crucial couple of minutes after 10, which is when the lanes open up. And on that note, I've been Pradith. Joining me has been Twig and Tank Tom. Hope you enjoy this one. We're going to get ourselves into potentially the next game. But for those of you watching on YouTube, if this one does end up as a VOD, thanks for joining us. Like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. Jump onto our Discord. Where we have a nice community built up. We do this every Sunday night, and we also do a stream where we play it with everyone on Wednesdays, so it's a good chance to interact with us. Thanks for joining us, and we will catch you in the next one. Alrighty then. Twig, Tank Tom, are we doing one more, or is that it for the night?
I think because we didn't announce that would be the last one, maybe this will be the last one. So we'll do one more Raptor Crater. We can already see a number of players have jumped down there. So we're going to throw, depending on how many, we've got lots of king, we've got lots of peasants. I think we're going to do a 75, especially because there's a lot more names here. I will start assigning those.
Sounds good to me. I'm just going to take a quick moment, and I'll be back in a second.
Okay, I don't know if you kings that have already been up there have the ability to jump out. That'll help me removing you. We've definitely got enough people down here though that no one will unfortunately get to go back down there again.
Start moving people up for you.
Move up those 70s. Hot Potato can have a go after that amazing comwalk. Unfortunately, the one player that's still downloading, I haven't given you the bonus in case it takes too long. That is 9 anyway. We've got the 9. Nine versus 76. Oh, we almost need to make this an 80 bonus, I think. Especially because we don't have it.
Yeah.
Who is adding AI? You're not going to last very long. It'll be Lyle. Where are you?
This is not the...
I'm looking for him on the list. It's easier to remove the player. Hmm.
Sorry, it looked to be gone now. Check these. IDs.
Team 1. Okay. 80 peasants we're going to have to go up to plus 80 for the kings. I will start at the top.
That's right. If there's 80, I'm tempted to just crank it up to like 85 because we'll probably end up with more by the time you get to the end of the list.
It is a massive bonus 80. It's getting big. All right, let's just call it. Called it. 85 it is.
Oh, I was rolling through with the 80s as well. I remember that, what was it? We did 100 with 3 of us the other day.
3 is a little bit different than Twig ID's all okay. I haven't checked it yet, Jalio. Thanks for
yes.
asking.
85 might be too much because 80s is over 160 metal per APHIS.
Okay, back to 80. I'll start it at the top again. There we go. One more to go. Dead vegan cut. Done. Okay, 80 it is. Big game. We're up to 100 players. It's been a little while since we've had 100. Man, it's at least last year, I'd say, since we had 100 players.
Very interesting.
Thanks, Jalio. Appreciate you checking. We do always appreciate you guys that help make these run smoother. Very hard for us to get across everything, including the chats and everything.
Yeah, I'll be honest, there's a lot of things where I'm vaguely aware of what's scrolling past in the chat, but I'm not actually paying a whole lot of attention because I'm going through doing all the checks and balances to try and make sure that everything is all lining up so that we're good to go.
Mm. And any of you guys on the official Twitch at the moment, we are AllReasonNoLogic, Twig, Pradith, Tank Tom, also streaming at the moment. If you guys wouldn't mind following us, we do appreciate those follows. And also players in game, please stay on Team 1 once the teams are finalised.
Just going to go through and start specking people that aren't.
I shall post the rules, which always get broken. I'm surprised how many people still spawn in the middle.
Look, with this many people, I'm not surprised that there's some that
It's what Pradith was saying. It's like you see a whole bunch of players outside of the lava. Does something not click in your mind? This does not feel right. We are Australian, so we'll make fun of you.
We do have a player with a plus 70 bonus on the outside.
Shit. Who full started? What did they move up? No Rexo, plus 75.
Got a plus 70 on Link Boba.
We'll have to stop and start again.
There's a couple up there. Can we do that from here?
No, we can't. We'll just have to stop it.
I mean, we might.
It's not really their fault. It's ours.
Battle ended.
Yep, and Stylus has it too.
If it was just one, I'd potentially just let it roll. But with a couple, it's probably.
I mean, if it was one, I would actually just say they can't. We have to spec them and roll, but that's
all right. Looks all good. There's no more up there. The tricky thing is that we do miss as well, and we do apologise. Quite often people will be in spectators and they'll have a bonus from a previous game and then they'll come back in and we don't think to check them.
Also, it just, when there's 90 names, it's actually just hard to see it. Because I know somebody was, one of our regulars, I don't remember who it was, they changed their name to their name plus 50 for like a month.
I remember that because it messed with anyone who's got a number at the end of the name. You're like, oh, no, wait, it's right.
Yep.
A lot of people are calling for a higher bonus for the Kings given the number of peasants. And also I'm seeing some big names.
I don't... Look, we can if you want to, but the reality is that versus 100 when we have plus 100, we don't exactly lose easily.
No, we don't. We didn't. That's 3 of us
we
though that
APM
have done...
stall.
I'm happy to leave
plus
it.
80 is... So just so that you guys understand the maths, one APHIS at plus 80 builds another APHIS in 50 seconds.
Yeah. Hot tip, if you guys allow the Center King to get all the eco as well and get an APHIS up and get a T3 or 2 out at just after 10 minutes, you'll be able to all exponentially grow because those T3s will really push through a lot of the peasants and take attention away from defense. So favour your Eco King in the middle. I just use Tank Tom and Praetor as meat shields so I can do that. It works well.
Do we want to do Legion for the last game?
Oh yeah, let's throw it in. Very much. Do we want to do the proposed unit reworks as well?
I think I saw that Duffy already turned them on.
Duffy turn them on? Okay. It's a cheaper fusion reactor. It's the new update, so I don't see a problem with that. Has it been posted?
Hang on.
It is done. Alright. This is a big game. If it lags, Praetor, hope you record because my computer's going to struggle on this one.
Can anyone see him in the lobby?
Just do a kick ban. If it's it's not ready. That's weird. Okay, I'm gonna force start. Did you put Legion on? Yep.
Yep, it is.
It's just who's doing the force start. That seems to be what works. You were there, Prey.
Yeah, sorry. I'm making an Excel sheet that explains just how crazy APHIS are.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah,
I'm a nerd, if anyone's wondering.
As the bonus increases, it scales harder and harder and harder.
Pretty much after you get that first APHIS on a plus 80 bonus, don't even have to worry about eco, knowing that like as long as you got some build power building APHIS in the background.
Build power becomes the limiting factor.
At 20 minutes, you're not going to even have to worry about metal.
Let's just swap that in with 10 because I didn't use a round down. So one fusion, one APHIS at a plus 80 is 180 metal income, which means that you can build another APHIS in 40 seconds.
So if you get your first one up at 7 minutes, you can have 2 and an army ready to go at 10.
Octavia, yes, you are on the live. Be excited, but also jump over to AllReasonNoLogic and hit a follow at the end of this once we are no longer live tonight.
52 seconds, sorry. It's 52.7 seconds for your first APHIS, and basically cut the number in half for every subsequent APHIS. So that's ridiculous, and it is with a plus 80 bonus. It's possible to get a 7-minute APHIS, which means it's possible to have 4 APHIS by 10 minutes.
Hey,
because that's how exponential scaling works.
good luck, kings. Peasants, get the hell out of the middle. Outside of the lava. Paste the rules again. Try and leave the chat a little bit quiet so people can read it. Just for a second, please. Right off, I'm relying on your recording. My computer is not going to cope.
I'm not recording.
You're totally going to. 112 players in the game. It's going to be big. Let's make this one a classic one.
And as per usual, we have one player on the inside of the line. But it does look like they've moved back.
Alright, I hope these kings know what they're doing. I am recognizing a lot of the names. But some of the big names of King of the Hill, ones that make me think maybe we should put this as plus 100 for the kings. There's multiple of them on the outside. We've got Classic, we've got Duffy, Grumpiness, and a lot of others. Psycho Pew Pew, Jelio. Got Rosie and Fuel, Platinum Blonde. They're going to stir up mess down the bottom right. There's a guy's name is Oppenheimer, so we'll see some bangs out of that corner. You know what I love? I love seeing Classic join these games. Classic always, not always, but often spawns really close, and it is just an absolute pest. Like, honestly, doesn't have the huge eco behind him, but his commander will do so much damage. It'll just degun stuff. You have to just, it takes away all your APM as a king if you got Classic in your lane. I hate it when I'm against him.
So, Stelox, if you're listening, I would highly recommend ensuring that you have 3 pinpointers down and a counter intrusion at the top and bottom, or the left and right, at that 10-minute mark, because there are so many players here that you guys are going to have invisible tanks. You're going to have you're going to have comms walking in. You're going to have everything under the sun walking in. So if you're listening, would recommend.
And Kings, I'll put it in the chat there. Do not forget to build your units. If it hits the 9-minute mark, make sure you got those labs on repeat, because I am sure 1 or 2 of you are going to be flooded by units. Something that has a bit of a large area effect, your Jags, your Welders, even your Fiends, mind you, those Fiends quite often will do a lot of damage to your own stuff when they die.
Something to also bear in mind, Pounders are strong.
Oh, you put Pounders at a ramp? Stuff's not getting up that easily.
Yep.
We have
on the
tested
defensive, Pounders can deal with T1 units. Just throw enough of them at the problem and it will go away.
Alright, I think we've got everyone in the game. If someone that has boss wants to force start, go for it.
I'm fairly certain we can do it. We just can't see the countdown.
Battle started.
G'day and welcome to King of the Hill on Raptor Crater. We've got a big one for you today, 102 players versus 9. Though it is quite a strong lineup of 9 in the middle with a plus 80 bonus. We'll see whether they've got what it takes to win this one, or is it going to be another peasant victory after a staggeringly powerful push in the previous match. Joining me in the casting booth, we have Twig and Tank Tom. I am Pradith, and let's run through what's going on. So, King of the Hill is a Honor Rules game mode that we have been lucky enough for the developers and the mods to see, like, and let us have a bit of a slot on a Sunday night. And in it, we pit a number of kings against as many peasants as we possibly can, and we do our best to balance that one out as we go. There's a couple of additional rules that we've thrown in. For example, there is no air, because with the density in here, it just does not work out very well. We also have made some slight tweaks to a couple of units. I don't think that's the case in this map. The big and important rule is defenses. So we've left them in for you to build, because they are a very necessary part of the game, but they are not to be used to oppress your opponent. So that means don't build them in such a way that they can hit your opponent's structures. So if you want to build yourself something like a rattlesnake, build it back here, this sort of area. It's usually fine. It has a range of around about that. Good to go. If you try and build it up here, and the range is around here, not so good, and depending on how busy the game is, you may just find yourself not in it anymore. The other big ones are your catalysts, your EMPs, and your Junos. Again, very important things. The catalyst and the EMP, fantastic for dealing with early T3 units, but don't use them offensively. Similarly, the Juno, great for dealing with tiny units, but don't use them offensively. Basically, the rule of thumb, if you're a peasant, do not fire them inside where the lava is. If you're a king, do not fire them outside where the lava is. Even once the lava goes down, you know where it was. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a look in at the action.
Guys,
Or at least
I'm nervous. I'm nervous for these kings. There is a lot going on around the outside. I'm seeing a lot of purple. I don't know if it's purple on your screen, Predator, but Duffy has 9 commanders.
Commander self-destructed.
Sorry,
I'm
what?
assuming he did a slash take at the start.
I think
Anyone who
so.
hadn't.
Yep, I think so. So there's a lot of metal. He's missed one spot up on this hill though. And yeah,
He's starting on 40
people
metal,
gave
1,000 energy
people.
for those
I saw
comms.
people giving him the comms as well. There were a couple sends. So there's going to be some real OP stuff happening here. There's going to be a lot of build power. I'm very nervous what's going to happen on the top of the map there. And also we've got some huge names around this game. Ones that we've seen in a lot of King of the Hills. Ones that are very popular in the PvP scene of Beyond a Reason as well. We've already got a T2 lab up on the top right, and it's only 3 minutes in. In fact, we've got T2 labs coming up just about everywhere for these peasants. Yeah, all corners, T2. I'm slow. Ray, you just talked for too long. The middle's got one up too. Slaytuck's doing good, getting the T2 cons out and probably going to distribute them across some of these players. But Kings quite often just getting their own T2 lab out. All right, back to it. Distractions aside, these Kings need to build up and get plenty of units out. I like to see them out coming out from somewhere around the 8-9 minute mark, and they're going to need them because there are shenanigans happening around this map.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be. You can see the difference that extra bonus makes. The fact that all of the D2 labs are up at that sort of 4-minute mark, whereas typically they come up kind of closer to 5-ish for the Kings in the middle, means that they're going to be that couple of minutes ahead already.
Yeah, I'm talking like the Kings have a big disadvantage here. They are on plus 80 bonus, which is the highest bonus we've assigned to 9 Kings since the update was given to the reclaim bonus last year. I think that was in about November. So giving them some excuses, but not all excuses.
One of the
Bonus
things-
is where you start to consider going straight into APHIS rather than Fusion.
It's not a consideration. You do it. You can get your first APHIS up by 7 minutes. You can get 4 by 10 or 3 plus a T2 lab and units.
Absolutely.
Plus 80 is more ridiculous than you think it is, because every little bit at the start of the game gets you to your first set of scaling earlier, and your scaling scales harder. Now the thing is, the builds won't be prepared. People won't be able to do that just off of the cuff. But the fact is that 1 to 2 aphises by 10 minutes is not unreasonable, and that gives you the eco to eco while you build units. Each aphis is about 180 metal per second.
As Ox getting
Yeah,
the
so the
T2s
kinda-
out, you're going to need energy in these sort of games, because that metal is going to be so high so quick that you almost have to convert. Exactly what they're doing now. Going into a fusion now before going and upgrading all those mexes, because that metal is just going to be so exponential in this game. You're not going to be able to keep up, and build power is going to be the next problem after that.
One of the problems you have to consider, though, is, in particular, if you've picked Legion, your metal income is atrocious if you built all of the metal extractors that produce energy as well. So, for example, Tabon at the top right of the map is currently on a very low income because they didn't have enough converters, they didn't have enough wind, and they didn't build the T1.5 extractors, which means that this T2 lab is coming up very, very delayed. We're looking at something. Thing is, we can't see when it's turned to hold fire until it unpauses.
Yeah, it's been put on control D, so whoever's paused that, please resume the game. Thank you.
Good, and this is the perfect time. This is the perfect way to pause, just by the way.
Battle resumed.
There you go. It doesn't look like it was put on hold fire, but it's not going to have enough damage to... Yeah, there we go. Now it's on...
Battle pause.
Now it's on hold fire.
been
There we go.
Removed.
Alright, because you've fired that still, make sure you control D it. I don't want to see the metal reclaimed out of that one. Please resume, guys. Sorry about that.
Alrighty. Let's get ourselves back into this one.
Battle resumed.
There we go.
Yes, you better control D that.
It is being reclaimed. So,
Oh.
Tenash. Looks like... Alright, someone can take that now. And control D it.
Commander self-destructed.
We're looking alright everywhere else that I can see.
Alright, looking at the map, the Kings are not in the greatest position as things stand at the moment. The economies are yet to start scaling, but we are grabbing the first APHIS is about to be down for the Kings with a couple minutes to go, but the defenses are very, very light. I'm very worried about dead vegan cat. They've put a lot of effort into getting this APHIS, and unfortunately they do not have the defenses to deal with it. But with a minute to go, it doesn't look like too much that's headed their way just yet. And in theory, they should be able to get online in that minute, though it will be a very, very close call.
I need to be
One of the things that is very hard to do is adjust between different matches. If you've just played on 65, or if you try a strategy that you think will pay off but doesn't quite, it can be a very rough start. So what we need to see is rapid response forces out of the players in the middle of the map so that they can send T2 units to plug any holes, because we're definitely going to be seeing some holes made.
Kings, you should be building units now. It's 9 minutes 20. You need to stop building eco if that's all you're doing, and build some units, because you will have troops headed your way in 30 seconds.
Correct.
You need to have that army ready and waiting at 10 minutes, because if you try and build it at 10 minutes, it's going to be way too late. And with this many peasants, that's not a gamble that you want to be taking.
So with 100 players on the map and with 10 seconds to go, it looks like we're going to have about 600 units on the map at that 10-minute mark, which is a nice solid 250 more than we normally see, which is actually right in line with a 60-player versus 100-player map. And it does look like that lava has dropped down, and one of the largest forces is coming from this bottom right-hand side. And it's not just a large force, it is a stout force as well.
Ooh,
This is going to be a lot of damage. The Fiends will trade reasonably favorably if they are Control D'd properly, but if they're Control D too early, or if they don't get those Control Ds off, they're not going to trade well at all.
Spreading out.
And that's not a good trade to start with. Still, those Twin Guards are going to do a decent amount of damage as they come in. The numbers have been whittled down. The Fiends are coming in, but they're coming in one at a time, which is not ideal. And there's no one really to assist.
Heavy fire as well.
Good D-guns by Hot Potato, grabbing one of those lines, trying to grab the second one. Units trying to break around and find other ways in, but unfortunately, fortunately for them, good D-guns stopping that, good beamers stopping that from coming in, but a couple of units are making it through.
Right. Making their way through to the middle.
Oh my god, it's so close, but the Hot Potato just doesn't have what he needs to deal with this. The income is there, but the build power just isn't. Thankfully, Scorpions coming up with a problem with defending back here as it opens up the way in around there, and the players have identified that it does look like Full F is getting assaulted through that. So even though we have all the pop-ups to stop this, without the units to rapid response, the units are coming in from behind. One of the best things Hot Potato can do is move forwards and close that gap, and then Full F can clean up the units that are there. But looking at the top of the map, Grumpiness is coming in with many comms. Defenses have fallen for Mr. Notake, and it doesn't look like this is a push that's going to be stopped anytime soon. Good use of comm just there to kill a bunch of the spam, but unfortunately the defenses available here are just those Scorpions, which is not going to be enough. And with a comm essentially in the base, oh, okay, good taker there with snipers there. It's going to be a problem. It also looks like Tabon's defenses were too far back, and his lanes have broken as well.
Yeah.
Units getting into
up
the left space.
Lethox really needs to come online now, because that top line out of Classic, Duffy and Grumpiness with the snipers, that's going to be a fallen base very quickly. Nothing there to counter snipers. So
Top and top right are under heavy fire at the moment, and that's where all the support needs to be going.
yeah, you can
Does
see
look like
here
Hot
Tarkus is
Potato
coming
has
across.
cleaned up his lane and pushed it all the way back to the point where it is defensible. But yes, it is this top middle and top right that are the problems right now. And as Mr. Notake falls, the T2 lab goes down, the build power goes down, and it's still possible to get back into this one as long as they're given some units, but we do need to see a lot more defenses here. Unfortunately though, it is just eco scaling coming out of the middle of the map, which whilst it is necessary to win the game, you can't win the game if you've already lost it.
Yeah, you need to just drop everything in the middle there, Slatox, and just go straight into units. Put every build power that you've got until this gets cleaned up. Otherwise, we're going to see 3 bases falling. We've already seen 1. Tabon's is going to come under fire very shortly, and Tarkus is similarly. It's actually only the one lab. These hoplites need to come straight across and try and take on these commanders. They do all right.
Unfortunately, going into the T3 lab is not gonna come online fast enough to help, because we're seeing these units spreading out and taking out more
And
players.
Vicious at 200 metal a second.
Commander destroyed.
At the moment, you just need more units, not bigger units.
Yes. Because and as we see the back of Full F, even though Full F has done such a good job of controlling the front and keeping themselves up, helping Hot Potato, unfortunately you cannot be everywhere all at once. And so that is his conversion down, which means his economy is well down. And the units just keep pouring in from the top.
You can really see on the bottom how this 80 bonus is pretty much made an even match. It's just the top there where you had the OP Tommy out of those centre players, as well as maybe a few wrong decisions here with economy with the Legion. And now we've got 3 bases down.
In saying that, having Grumpiness in Classic come assaulting your base with 5 or 6 comms or whatever it was is going to be rough, no matter how you're set up. But if you've got
100%.
that economy up and running and you can throw units at them, you've got a much better chance of being able to hold them off. You'll probably still need some support to do it, but at least you'll have a chance to survive.
But with 3 of the kings falling, the middle eco no longer able to realistically eco, the kings are in a pretty rough spot at the moment. And this is why holding the ramps is so critical, because once the units make it around, you saw they can just bypass other players' defenses and get into their bases.
Make sure that you can hold them at least outside of that inner circle, because as soon as they get into that and they can access the rear of everyone's bases, there's not a whole lot that can be done, because the rest of the players still need to hold their ramps as well.
We've got these snipers now just about on the precipice of this eco for the centre of the map. As they slowly walk through, there's only a few T3s. What we need out of the middle is spam. all this build power on the right, which is slowly going up 1 unit at a time, that needs to just be a T1 or T2 lab. And all of that build power just put on spam, pushing this back so it's back outside of this dark patch of dirt in the middle. Fortify and then go back into the eco.
I do like that that Ortab is jumping up from the left-hand side and trying to cut the reinforcements off. It is stout, so they won't do the whole job, but they will cut off a lot of the spam. They will cut off a lot of the Decurions, which will allow the rest of the players here to try and deal with those snipers. But at the moment, the snipers are just getting such good value. Every single shot is going into something like a Marauder or a Karganeth or a T2 unit, and this game is all about matching your counters to, or matching your units to counter what the opponent's throwing at you. If they're throwing T1 units at you, then build things that counter T1 units like Pounders. If they're attacking you with snipers, throw things like spam at them, whether that's ticks or rovers. You have a lot of options. You can kind of overwhelm anything with enough money, but this isn't a situation where the Kings have enough money. If you look at the bottom right of my screen at the moment, you can see that we have multiple players bottomed out on metal. We do have a couple that do have metal to spend, but it's not like a situation where the entire team is overflowing. So as many units as possible are realistically being made, plus a bank of about 10,000 metal, which, whilst the 10,000 metal would help, the problem is that the defenses that were holding out other teams are starting to, other peasants are starting to fall because they're no longer being reinforced on the top left hand side. So there's about to be another lane worth of units to come and break in, and that means that Oratab's not going to be able to make their way up to help for that much longer, especially considering that the bottom is starting to fall as well, and Ghost Dragon is currently in a rough spot, and that's going to potentially lead to bleeding into Oratab as well. So that's definitely going to start being a problematic, and this is right as they're starting to clean the top of the map up. Those T3 units, the spending is certainly helping, but the problem is the force from the rest of the map is yet to really come online.
Just to put things in perspective, if these top lanes didn't fall, the metal income right now from some of these Kings, we've got plus 500, plus 300, plus 400 out of a lot of them. And even Sletox in the middle, who's been under that pressure, is up to the plus 200s. When the converters are online, up to plus 300s as well. Now going into build power and going to keep expanding that eco. You saw how quick those Razorbacks came up once they got the build power focusing on their T3, and managed to push that back. So there is opportunity here still for the Kings.
Really good hold by the Kings in this situation. It was very touch and go, but they despite us saying that they should be focusing just on units, they managed to maintain that eco whilst producing units, which means that they're in a better position than if they had swapped entirely over. But I do think that they were right on that knife edge.
Oh yeah, step one of winning the game is still being alive till the end, and they've managed to do that. So it'll be interesting to see how they can go from here. It'd be great to see some of that economy handed back to some of those players that lost pretty much everything, even if it's just, you know, a fusion or APHIS and some converters, so that they can then start contributing to the team, because rebuilding from scratch is rough, but when you've got 4 or 5 APHIS, you've probably got one that you can spare.
And considering that none of them have left, getting them back into the game is critical, because these players won't take long to build back up just based off of things like overflow. So they very easily could get back into the match. And I would just like to say from chat, Zephyr Skies, quoting me in chat, "You can't win the game if you've already lost it." I like that. I like that a lot. And it does look like the Kings managed to not lose it there, so they are going to be in a position to potentially win this one, but they do need to find a place to break out. Oh, that was close. I just caught that. One of the blue comms heading into Ghost Dragon's base, but it has been defended. Defenses need to be sent to this bottom left-hand side. This is about to break over here, and if that does, that's going to be an open lane which will be a big problem. So we need to see something coming up. We do have a counter-offensive by Dead Vegan Cat. Those vanguards have been doing a menace's worth of problems. You can see all of these areas being cleared out. But the problem is that if the player to his left falls down, then there's going to be a big backload. I do love this. Mass EMPs ready to assist where needed for that defensive. So these EMPs could actually be used to save the player to his left, save Delver, but save Ghost Dragon. But the thing is, he has to notice the attack for those to work. These are manual fire things, and the attack is here. It is getting in. The Hounds, fast movers, good damage. I've just taken out the production and are heading in. They've found that some of the defenses are long enough range. They have to skirt, but they are into the middle of the map, and there is very little here to stop them. And if they can find these APHIS patches, or even better, the converter patches, they're going to be able to take those down in seconds. And if the converters of Dead Vegan Cat go offline, that's going to be terrible. And even worse, there's the possibility for them to keep going up and getting Stelox. That's really bad. That's a really big problem. Those EMPs just a fraction too late and a little bit too narrow. But that right there has just cut 1,000 income off the King's base. Of the Kings.
There was a stealth tank sitting inside the base for a while there, so the peasants know where pretty much everything is.
Unfortunately, the top assault is back on in full force, and because there wasn't a reaction early enough, a lot of the units are now having to close up this gap in the bottom left. The Kings are struggling to keep themselves up alive at the moment, because now we're also seeing the left-hand side starting to fall as well, because the defensive units were pulled away to try and save the middle of the map. It was the right call, but it is going to result in a lot of additional damage to the Kings. Right-hand side, we do see a push coming up the ramps. We do have a Thor in the front lines, plenty of spam, a couple of mammoths and some snipers trying to make their way up, but this is being held, even if only just. We do see Hot Potato trying to do the same, but when it's only spam and not the backup and not the DPS units behind, it isn't going to do what it needs to do. Economy 60% in favor of the peasants at the moment, and it doesn't look like the gas is going to be let off either, because if we look at the right hand side, top right hand side, APHIS is being produced. On the top left, just units coming out. Actually, there is APHIS being produced. Bottom left hand side, T3 lab coming online, which means that we're going to be having even more pressure heading to the middle of the map. Interestingly enough, Dead Vegan Cat is producing their advanced energy converters away from the middle of the map in their defensive bastion. I both like and dislike this, because it is close enough to be a problem, but it is away from the main. Oh dear. I think Grumpiness may have just gotten a D-gun onto the APHIS for Ortab, which means that there is yet another open lane. The Kings are now the top half of the map was gone. It has been somewhat retaken, but now it is the diagonal left top of the map that is the problem, and there is a lot of radar coming in here.
There's no radar on the left now at all, so this comm is able to walk straight in without even being seen by a not even seen by the towers right next to it. And there you go.
It does look like it's going to get close enough to be... Oh, that's going to be all she wrote for the Kings, I reckon. Because that's just cut their economy in half again.
Even the Center King needs a radar.
And this is why I suggested a handful of counter intrusions and the.
It's always a bad time when your center eco player is a front line.
It's not impossible to deal with that, but one thing to bear in mind, center eco was never managed to get ahead the way that they need to. With the last time I played in the center position, I had my first APHIS down at 10 minutes, and we saw more of a single fusion down at 10 minutes. Which, when you have access to those 8, when you have access to the 8 mexes as well as no defensive structures needed, You definitely do have to be that pivot point that can reinforce any lane and be ready to do so at that 10-minute mark, as well as scaling your
Grumpiness
eco.
doing it again on the right, taking out all the build parent conversion with yet another commander. He's having too much fun.
Yep.
Commanders seem to be the theme of this evening on this map.
And you know what? Now we've got
And as we said,
Toowoomba.
comms are
Take-
very powerful units the entire way through the game.
Take Woomba, trying to get there right now. Unfortunately, having to come online just to get that fiend, so that commander. Oh, the explosion getting that one down to 17%. So the last big Aphis stack almost in disrepair.
And while Vanguards are a very strong unit, they aren't currently the unit that's needed for defense. They can only destroy a handful of units at a time, and it is the T1 and it's the sprinters and the T1 units that are the big problems. Catapults also putting fire. Catapults taking out the last remaining major economy in the game.
I was about to say, I love it when I run into defensive catapults and vanguards. It means you can just sit your tick next to the Aphis and they'll pop it for you.
They will indeed. Economy now actually 2,000% in favor of the peasants. Peasants, you've done a good job to never let the pressure off. Kings, I reckon you might want to practice with that plus 80 just to see just how far you can push those limits. You did a really good job of scaling, but unfortunately once the ramps started falling, the additional pressure, there just isn't enough APM in the world to deal with 102 players.
And we're basically onto the cleanup at this point. When you've got that many units streaming in through the center and basically surrounding you on all sides, there's not too much that you can really do to hold off this many players on your own.
Commander destroyed.
It does look like the very last bits and pieces starting to fall down, and it does look like the last comma has been taken out for the Kings. Very well played by the peasants. You put your foot on the pedal and you never let off, which is one of the things I like about this big games. There's so few mexes, it's very hard to over-eco, and it's very hard not to work together. And then that massive com push in the top left-hand side, very nicely done. Looking at the damage graphs, you can see some of the problems here, and that being that individual peasants with greater damage than multiple of the kings. That is the power of that is the power of those co-op corners, and the unfortunate side of defenses falling and players having to move in, not scale, all of that good stuff. Metal produced, you can even see. It looks like one peasant was inside the king's lines for scaling, and we also had 3 peasants inside of the peasants' lines for scaling. So very good potential, but unfortunately just not quite the defense that was needed to hold this one, and not quite the scaling that was needed to defeat the peasants. So hopefully you enjoyed that one. That's going to be the last game out of us tonight. If you're on the YouTubes, like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. Join us on our Discord. We do host these ones every Sunday, as well as a versus AI stream on Wednesdays, where you can come and we'll actually be in chat with everyone. So do check us out. Enjoy that one. I've been Prater. Thanks for joining us.
All right. If we've got a mod or a dev there, I'm gonna throw a raid from the official Twitch over to Two Pumps, who'll probably be sticking around. I'll just flick them a message if they see what they want to do.
And a big thanks to everyone who did watch us tonight. We do appreciate it. Sorry if we don't keep too much up with the chat while we're casting. It is not always it's not possible to do that and keep the audio good for the videos. We do appreciate everyone who's in there in chat, particularly if you're on our stream. We do still love everyone on the official as well, but we're selfish. So what are you gonna do? Do hope that everyone enjoyed that one. Octavia, sorry that you ended up lagging so far behind. There is the game, whilst it is phenomenally well done, it does struggle when there's 100 people in it, and that I think is very fair. But thanks for being in chat and for being in game. So that one is awesome. Thanks, Thul, for the support. And yeah, anyone who wants to, then please leave a follow, a like, whatever platform you're on, and then do stick around for 2 pumps, where I do think that we'll be raiding them. So if we can, I don't have control over the official, so that'll be on the on the bar team. That's basically going to be it from me. I'll turn it over to Twig and Tank Tom. That will close out the stream. But I've been Pradith, and I've enjoyed entertaining you tonight as best as I possibly can. Happy New Year to everybody, and I hope that it brings you much prosperity. I'm taking a big business gamble this year, so let's hope it works out for me as well. Catch you all in the next one.
Looks like 2 Pumps is not here for the after party, but we'll do a raid for them on the Twitch anyway, and leave you guys with a, what do you want? Let us know in game. Do you want just a PvP even? I can throw balance on. Maybe we
I
can.
was going to say, if we just turn the balance,
So advanced,
let it do its thing.
and then we'll just pick a map of your choosing. Why don't you just go Supreme Estimus? Everyone will be happy with that. There we go.
It's not balanced particularly well, is it? Yes, hello.
It'll get there. It'll get there.
Been barking in the backyard. I've heard you.
All right. Thanks everyone. We're going to sign out. I'm going to just send a raid over on the Twitch. And then we'll kick this game off shortly once everyone ready's up.
Heart track balance fixes all things, doesn't it?
All right. Thanks everyone for watching.
We'll see you all next time.